118 hours of one-on-one services that may be allocated between speech, language, and tutoring provided by a CDE certified non-public agency. The total reimbursement shall not exceed $17,700, and the district will pay a maximum of $8,500 in attorney fees to the student's attorney. It was a 5-0 vote in the unanimous. We do have one other action item to report on.
I move to ratify student expulsion report number 22/23-17.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Webb, second by Mrs. Storley to approve the ratification of student expulsion report number 22/23-17. All in favor?
Aye.
Student board member?
Aye.
And the chair says aye. We will now reestablish the quorum. Debbie?
Mr. Messina?
Here.
Dr. Moore?
Present.
Mrs. Storley?
Here.
Mr. Webb?
Present.
Mr. Jensen?
Present.
And student board member.
Next on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. I've asked Justin Charles to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Justin is a graduate of our school district, right? Valencia High School, I believe. West Ranch.
West Ranch.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Justin. Okay, next is approval of the agenda.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Mrs. Storley, second by Dr. Moore to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Student board member?
Aye.
And the chair says aye. Next is approval of the minutes of the December 14th organizational meeting.
Move to approve the minutes of the regular organizational meeting of December 14th, 2022.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Webb, second by Mrs. Storley to approve the minutes from the meeting of December 14th, 2022. All in favor? And student board member?
Aye.
And the chair says aye. We'll move on to recognitions by the board, and we have a recognition for the One Heart Award. Mr. Kuhlman.
Yes, thank you, President Jensen. So this past year, the governing board adopted 4 new core values, and they are courage, creativity, caring, and community. The 4 descriptors are what we call aspirational values, which means that our governing board wants to set aside these character traits as traits that we hope all of our students would aspire to. And one way we've chosen to highlight these values is through the presentation of our One Heart Award. The award is a medallion that is presented to a student, staff member, or a member of our community that we believe exemplifies one or more of our core values. By honoring someone. My teacher voice, I thought I was hearing myself. I'm going to choose not to start over. Is that okay? Yeah. Okay. All right. So by honoring someone with this One Heart Award, we are in effect saying to our students, be like these people. And tonight we have 2 awards to be presented by 2 of our governing board members. And I'd like to begin with Mr. Joe Messina sharing a One Heart Award. Mr. Messina.
Well, this person has been in education for many years. 23 years in education. She's worked hard to bring programs and make tweaks to those programs that are in the best interest of our students. No matter what she's doing, when I ask her to help a student or a parent in distress, she jumps all over it and she takes care of it. She's one of the few that will tell me in black and white if I'm going in the wrong direction and looking at something the wrong way. When I have concerns about the process, she'll take her time to explain it to me so I do understand it. Whether I agree with it or not, at least she lays it out, again, in plain, simple English for me. You know, having trusted people that you know care for and love the students in the district is a big deal. She's always ready to help out, always ready to jump in as soon as the phone rings. She's checked out programs such as Disconnected, where we brought in a speaker that spent 25 years looking at the effects of smartphones on teenagers. The Sober Learning Program, where we helped kids that were addicted still get their education, still be able to move through the system. security issues. She's all over these kind of things. And how parents need help, again, willing to pick up the phone and work with them. Students are number one. When she used to handle student services and expulsion reports would come in front of us, it wasn't just a simple matter of expulsion. She would go out of her way to try to make sure that everything we could do for that student to keep them from getting expelled, to see what their needs were, working with the family and the student, and that's a big deal. She, lost my place here. Okay, working with drug rehab or interventions, implementation, threat assessments, programs, and so much more. I don't know how she does it. There's only 24 hours in a day. Her involvement with many issues, the fires, the lockdowns, other events that have happened on campus, she's there. She served in so many capacities at the district that it'll take me an hour to tell you about all of them. Her relationship with the agencies in and around town, the civic leaders, elected officials, the sheriff's department. I really could go on for an hour, but, and I don't know when she sleeps. Must be that Texas tenacity I always hear about. But I'd like to honor Kathy Hunter this evening. She's well-deserved. And,
Thank you, Mr. Messina, and thank you, Ms. Hunter. You know, we all agree with all of those statements. So we have a double bonus tonight. We have Ms. Linda Storley, who also has a special guest that she would like to share a few words about.
The man I'm honoring tonight. I've known this man for over 30 years. He and I have shared students and friends for a long time. The student doesn't only belong to the school, but there's time outside of the school that children, students, teenagers need someone by their side. This is a man that comes in when you need him. He does what you need him to do. We've worked together. When I was on the Parks Commission, we fought an uphill battle to get a Boys and Girls Club on the Newhall Park. I didn't really think it was going to be that big of a battle, but it really was. We did win that one, or should I say that students won. We've shared so many students together through the years, it's kind of funny. Jim Ventress, by the way, is the person that I'm awarding this to tonight, supposedly retired a few years back. Drive by either one of our two Boys and Girls Clubs and you'll see his car there. I see him everywhere. I know he's got that same feeling I do of we're still there for the kids. He's still there to help the kids. He's always there to help the kids. Helping them make good decisions, being safe, respect for self and others is what my friend has taught many, many students over the years. Jim has saved many a student. We work together to help kids succeed. I am so proud to have Jim to be my second #1 Hart Award. Jim fits all of our categories, not just one. He serves the kids by being part of our community with loving care, definitely with courage, and yes, he does it all with creativity. Jim Ventress.
Congratulations, Kathy and Jim. Thank you for all each of you do. Special thanks to Jim for being here tonight. Great to see you again. We're going to move on to the communications section of our board agenda. And the first item is board member reports. We're going to start with Mrs. Storley.
This last week, we had the SCV Trustee Association meeting. The group is made up of school board members from all of our feeder schools and COC, plus the Hart District. It's always great to get together and chat about things, share ideas, and our superintendents are invited also. Sulphur Springs was the host this time, and our district hosts next time. We meet about 4 times a year. We were asked to respond to the feeder schools' request to provide articulation from 6th grade to junior high. That's something we're going to work on. We already have this with junior high to high school, but it's probably needed from the 6th grade to the 7th. So let's make that happen. It looks like we're very close to closing negotiations. I hope I'm speaking okay. I think we're close with both teachers and all I've taken is a Tylenol. Classified employees, so now we can start it all over again. This concludes my report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Linda. James, Mr. Webb.
Thank you, Mr. Jensen. Members of the board, district cabinet, and community members with us this evening. 2 things that I'd like to highlight. The first one is last Thursday, I was at Saugus High School and was able to participate in their kindness assembly that they had. They had 2 assemblies, and they had a very dynamic, very energetic speaker who really talked to the students about what decisions they make in working, in being with other students, and told a story about how she was just said hello and was nice to somebody in high school, and they later said how much they appreciated that, and it made them feel that they belong. So I thought it was a very powerful assembly. I was so excited to see all the students there and engaged. The other thing I wanted to congratulate our district staff for is, if you've not heard, the Hart District was awarded $240,000 from the Commission on Teacher Credentialing for a classified teacher grant. They are going to be able to provide 50 current classified employees of funding up to $4,800 in partnership with CSU Northridge and UMass Global to help classified employees seek the pathway to earning a credential. So Dr. Nielsen, you and your team, very, very excited that you were able to be a part of this funding. I believe the decisions came out last Friday. And so we are a recipient of that award, and they got the maximum amount. 240 is the maximum that you can get, so they were able to do that. So I just wanted to say congratulations and how excited I am for our district.
Thank you, Mr. Webb. Dr. Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Jensen, and good evening, everyone. I have several things to share. As some of you know, I was not able to join the last meeting, and so I have double items to share. First, I just want to take a moment to say thank you to our social workers. The work that they do is life-changing, and it touches and impacts our children in ways in which they will never really know or understand. And recently, one of our students shared with me that her family went through a hardship, an unexpected hardship, and it resulted in their being close to homeless. And our social workers did everything to make sure that she had what she needed, from clothing to blankets to whatever it took, to make sure that there were not barriers on Maslow's pyramid, our basic needs that were not met so that our students could be successful and succeed. And I think that the work that they do is so quiet and hidden that we don't take the time to just say thank you, because they are there making a difference every day in the lives of our students. As you know, we have 900 plus homeless students, and that number has increased dramatically in the last several years. And I just wanted to pause to make sure that they know how much their work matters, that they matter to us, they matter to me, and I wanted to take a moment to say thank you. I also wanted to let those parents who are watching know, and I know we had this last night, Ms. Hunter, the parent forum, but we have the parent forum mañana en español, y es sobre la salud mental en los deportes, y va a ser a las 6:30 por Zoom, creo, y quiero invitar a todos que vienen mañana. Also wanted to let you know that this is Black History Month. This is the first day of Black History Month. And we have activities going on throughout the district in celebration of Black History Month. It is a month to really celebrate resilience and survival of a people who are strong and powerful. And I'm so grateful that in our district, we celebrate all students and all people and provide opportunities to have people learn about each other, because the only way that we will really focus on how we can get along better is when we know about each other more and understand our backgrounds more. So with that, I want to invite everyone to our art show that we will be having on February the 28th in this room for Black History Month, and hope to see you there. Art is a beautiful expression of human kindness and the fact that we are all human and can see each other through the beauty of art. So please be sure to come to that. On the 24th, we installed a third Z Club in the Hart District. Z Club is the Zonta Club high school club, and it was at West Ranch High School, and it was a wonderful, wonderful event. I want to thank the advisor, Andy Sinclair, who is also our wellness coordinator at West Ranch, and who also helps to put on the parent forums. She's multitasking and does a great deal and all of our advisors for really stepping up to do that work, to do it because you care and you know it makes a difference when we connect with kids around things that keep them in school beyond the academic. So again, thank you to Andy, but to all of our advisors. We have a budget study session coming up on February the 9th. It will be at 5 o'clock. And this is an opportunity for anyone who has questions about our budget, about our funding, about how we use it, what we're able to do with it, where most of the funding goes, to learn and be a part of a budget study session by having us really open our books. And Mr. Peshek does a wonderful job of walking through all of those components. So that's February the 9th at 5 o'clock. I have one more on February the 25th. And I know we'll have all these dates out, but I want to make sure I share them. February 25th, we'll have our Family Resource Fair at Golden Valley High School, and that will be from 9:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. And this is for our schools that are on the east side of our valley, where they come together for a Community Family Resource Fair in partnership with Sulphur Springs School District. And I can save the rest for the next one. I also want to say thank you, or congratulations to Kathy and to Jim. Congratulations. Mr. Jensen, that ends my report.
Thank you, Dr. Moore.
All
Nice
right.
report. Mr. Messina, you're next.
All right, I've got two of them. First one has passed, but we weren't here. January 27th was International Holocaust Remembrance Day. It commemorates the victims of the Holocaust, which resulted in the murder of 1/3 of the Jewish people, along with countless members of other minorities between 1933 and 1945 by Nazi Germany. An attempt to implement their final solution to the Jewish question. January 27th was chosen to commemorate the date when the Auschwitz concentration camp was liberated by the Red Army in 1945. The day remembers the killing of 6 million Jews, 2/3 of Europe's Jewish population, and millions of others by the Nazi regime and its collaboration. It went by pretty quick. There wasn't a lot of fanfare. But I really think it's one of those days, like we do with other things. Stop and think about it. Don't let it die, because we don't want it to happen again. And yes, I do love Black History Month, as you know. But I love to talk about some of the patriots that we had back in the early days. Many of you have seen the picture of George Washington crossing the river in a boat. And in the boat were several black military members. One of them, or one by the name of James Armistead, an enslaved man who turned spy for the Americans. Actually, he was a double agent. James had been an aide to French General Lafayette. Lafayette was an avid abolitionist. Frederick Douglass considered Lafayette a true abolitionist who embraced racial equality. James served the general, and at one point, the general needed a way to get information from the British on the British strategies. Americans were getting crushed. James volunteered to go. James went into the British camp as a runaway slave, made sure that they understood that he hated the Americans. He served with the officers in the officers' mess hall until British Commander Charles Cornwell decided to make him his own servant. Cornwallis also needed information as to what the Americans were planning. So again, James stepped up and said, hey, I'll go do that for you. I'll get that information. So through a series of information he provided to General Lafayette and misinformation to Cornwallis, the Americans were able to beat the British in the decisive battle of the war. In the summer of 1781, information that James got to Washington and Lafayette allowed the Americans to devastate the British military and over 10,000 soldiers. The British commander surrendered on October of 1781. Even with everything that James did, he was still considered a slave, and though black soldiers received a pension for their services, he did not, because spies weren't considered part of that coverage. After many requests to be considered that were turned down, not until Lafayette wrote a letter of testimony as to the importance of the work that he did, he was allowed to receive a pension and his freedom. He went on to buy 40 acres of land. He got $40 a year from the Virginian government, raised a large family, and lived in peace and in quiet. You have to understand Black History Month. You have to understand, as Dr. Moore said, a people that have fought and strived all their lives, and the great accomplishments that they continue to make, have made and continue to make. So that's my report.
Thank you, Mr. Messina. I'll just report that I've had the opportunity to attend several athletic events and visit several campuses. I wanted to also highlight, which has been mentioned already, the Mental Health, Sports, and Life Performance Forum that was held last night and that will be held again this coming Thursday in Spanish. And also, as has been mentioned, our budget study session on February 9th at 5 o'clock. That's going to be a great event, and I hope as many people as are here tonight will be there on the 9th to learn about our budget and the finances of the school district. Student board member?
Thank you. So first and foremost, I did want to echo the invitation February 28th to the Black History Month art show. I mentioned some details from it last board meeting, but we have gotten more as there are ads out for it now. For those who are interested in submitting any art pieces, we are currently accepting drawings, paintings, digital art, photos, or sculptures. One must be signed up February 3rd, and students are allowed to submit 1 to 2 pieces of art each. And the submission deadline would be February 16th for the art itself. Also, it is Black History Month the month of February is Black History Month, and the first full week of February is Counselor Appreciation Week. With that in mind, all ASBs are planning on hosting some event, whether it's a Spirit Week, whether it's creating goodie bags, just some way to honor and show our gratitude for our counselors. Castaic High School in specific is working on implementing a new leadership program outside of ASB, where they are currently inviting or nominating 150 students to be leaders on the campus and meet monthly to discuss how to reform or better campus culture. the orientation for that and more details about it, as well as the succession of it, will be discussed in later months. Hart High School just had its winter formal the 28th, and it was very successful. They received a lot of buzz about it, and there was a lot of positive feedback towards it. The rest of the winter formals will be happening this month for the other schools. Some schools are testing out the waters on digital IDs. There's been a lot of tension. I know I could speak for Golden Valley, but within other schools in this district as well about maintaining and keeping their IDs. But since a lot of students always have their phones, we're testing out a 5-star app where students will be allowed to always carry the ID via the app. And then college admissions for Cal States are beginning to come out. So for those who know any seniors, please reach out, show your support, and most of all, just check in on them. Also, on the topic of Hart District sports news, West Ranch is currently number 3rd in the state of California, and I believe number 11th nationally for basketball. They just played Golden Valley, and sadly we lost, but it was amazing to see. I know even ABC News came out to film some of West Ranch playing, so congratulations to them. And then Golden Valley Soccer made playoffs for the 2nd time in about a decade. So we are doing, Golden Valley is planning on hosting a parade for them during brunch. We're very excited for that. The only other time they've made it within the past decade was last year. So we're super excited. And then lastly, COC will be hosting a workshop tomorrow, February 2nd, for undocumented students hoping to apply to college. So again, we really do want to get that out there and push that information for any students that do need those resources. That's all the news I have.
Thank you, Danny. Mr. Kuhlman.
Thank you, Mr. Jensen. 3 quick comments. First, I wanted to thank Dr. Akash, who is in the audience today, and I think we may hear from him a little bit later, but for highlighting concerns about TikTok and access on our campuses. And I just wanted the folks to know, we went back and checked, and we actually do have that blocked on all of our servers. So I know there's more to come in that, but I wanted to get back and say thank you for highlighting that. Secondly, wanted to make sure everyone is aware, highlight the fact that on March 11th, we are hosting a teacher fair in our valley. It's going to be held at Rancho Pico Junior High School. It's very important that you all get the word out. Tell all of the best and brightest candidates out there to come be part of the fair and come be part of the Hart District or any of the other districts in our valley. And then finally, at the last meeting, Mr. Messina had asked that we continue to keep the concern about fentanyl first and foremost right in front of us, knowing that this is a concern that affects families and students in our district. And so we've committed to showing videos created by students, and we're going to break that up for the next 3 meetings. And the first video that we will watch to conclude my comments is called One Pill Kills, and this was put together by students at Canyon High School.
Thank you, Mr. Kuhlman. We're going to move on to Employee Association Leadership. We do have 2 speaker cards. Actually, yes, we have 2. So we'll do the 2 speakers first before Mr. Minkus. Diane Zimmerman.
Thank you. I'm prepared. I tried to find out if this was appropriate for this topic, but I gathered that it is. I just would like to urge all of you, especially the teachers, to read the book Standing Up to Goliath by Rebecca Friedrichs. It is fact-based and very eye-opening as to how the government teachers' unions have been infusing the CRT dumbing down of our children since their inception decades ago. Teachers, you do not have to belong to that union. This book clearly shows you a way out without losing benefits, etc. Or maybe homeschooling might be the best. I hope that doesn't end up being the case. Again, it is Standing Up to Goliath by Rebecca Friedrichs. And she also wrote and produced Whose Children Are They? And Mr. Coleman, thank you for your TikTok letting us know about that. I appreciate it. And for a couple other things you've been doing. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. Our next speaker is Carrie.
I am very concerned regarding our schools' illegal narcotics, or the illegal narcotics and fentanyl exposure in and around our school system. My bigger concern is the increasing number of homelessness in and around our school district. With the increase of homelessness, predominantly in areas where police don't frequent as often, there have been incidents of, regarding fires, fistfights, drug use, drunkards, etc. And my question is, where are the guardians that safely escort our students on and off campus? My concern is the ongoing harassment our students have to endure walking to and from school with illegal narcotics on the rise. What is being done with the exchange and influence of illegal narcotics and fentanyl on and off campuses? Are the teachers and faculty and staff aware of the constant peer pressure our students have to encounter on a weekly basis, especially students on foot walking to and from home? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, first of all is John Minkus, president of HDTA. Welcome, John, tonight. It's good to have you here.
Okay. Good evening, school board, student board member, president, Mr. Jensen, Superintendent Coleman, and staff. Thank you, as usual, for providing me the time to speak with you tonight. One of the resolutions that I spoke of at the last meeting is to approach my time here in a positive manner and continue to work on improving the relationship of HDTA and the Hart District management team, and to highlight the positive in our district. As such, I first want to congratulate our bargaining teams on working well together and reaching a tentative agreement. We look forward to its presentation later this evening. I also want to thank Dr. Nielsen for his presentation on wellness services available to employees, including the posting and upkeep of material on the district website. This fits well with the strategic plan 2-1, expand support structures to enhance student and staff wellness on each campus. I look forward to any and all specific actions taken by administration in support of the physical and mental well-being of our staff. In addition, a big thanks goes out to Ms. Debbie Dunn for the return of What's Good in Education in its new form, including social media outlets. We always want to highlight and celebrate the numerous achievements of our students and staff of the Hart District. And just yesterday, we met with Mr. Kuhlman and Mr. Nielsen. No real agenda, just a check-in to share information on where things stand and where things are heading. This type of cooperation, care, and concern for our HDTA membership shows that we are on the right track in support of the highest quality teaching and learning. To that end, I would like to share in a bit of celebration to add into our newish communications page. Here is Max Homa. Okay? Max Homa, Valencia, professional golfer and Valencia High School alum. And I just wanted to read this. I noticed this. It says underneath it, golf's Mr. Nice Guy had a plan to get great. Now it's your turn. Really like that. He was recently featured on the cover of one of the most prestigious sporting publications, Golf Magazine, and as an up-and-coming superstar. And in fashion, captured a victory at the following PGA Tour event at Torrey Pines in San Diego just this past weekend. FYI, along with $1.6 million. Congratulations to Max from HDTA, and especially from those of us who shared with him his experience as a Hart District student. But in no way do I or any other Hart District employee take credit for his success. Max was probably the most driven and hardworking individual I've ever seen. But as we look at the plethora of champions and championships, not just in sports, but blue ribbons across the board in academics as well as extracurricular activities, we see the highest quality programs being provided for the youth of our valley. Throughout the district, from our sports programs to our academics, performance arts to career tech education, and everything in between, the Hart District shines with excellence. Just in my own experiences at Valencia High, I have witnessed our choir perform from Disneyland to Carnegie Hall and on to the Vatican. I've seen a CAD class go from a startup to a dominant award-winning college prep program. And of course, there's the incredible genesis and growth of the sports med program and its profound and prolific impact on this district. Thank you to Christine Mocha, Liz Wilson, and Joe Monteleone. In practice, these are but a few of the stellar programs within the Hart District, yet they represent the quality of the whole. How do we provide such a variety of high-quality opportunities and continually produce such impressive outcomes? I'll tell you, we have a dedicated body of teachers in this district that establish, develop, and maintain this vast array of top-tier programs. Once again, I won't credit our members for student success, but rather for providing a myriad of preeminent opportunities to explore, learn, grow, and achieve at the highest levels. These programs do not come from on high, but from the ranks of our membership. People make programs. So I implore you, please recognize, accord appropriately, and most importantly, take care of your most valuable asset, the teachers of the Hart District. We are one Hart. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Next up is our president of CSEA Chapter 349, Janice Dennington. Janice, glad you're here tonight. Welcome.
Be here. Good evening, President Jensen, board members, Superintendent Coleman, cabinet, and guests. Tonight, I'd like to open with congratulating HDTA on signing a tentative agreement for 22-23 school year. I'm extremely happy for all of you. Very well deserved. Congratulations. On another note, CSEA continues the negotiations, asking the district to accept our offer of 8.22% on salary schedule and adding a step 6 to our salary chart. We would like to help the district retain and attract future employees, and we feel by adding the additional step, it will not only help the district remain competitive with our neighboring school districts, but our district would also be able to compete with businesses that compensate at a higher hourly rate, but don't guarantee built-in longevity paid incentives. 5 years ago, the average number of years a classified member worked for the district was close to 14 years. Today, 2023, it has gone down to 8.67 years, meaning our employees aren't staying as long as they used to. CSEA negotiated team is asking the district to accept our offer. CSEA is looking forward to meeting with the district this Friday, February 3rd, and hopes of reaching this tentative agreement. Thank you.
Janice, thank you for coming tonight. Appreciate your remarks. Our next item is school site report, Bowman High School, and we do have a speaker card for this item, so we'll have the speaker first, Santa Rivera.
Hello, good evening, everyone. So I wanted to talk about, it's on slide 4. I'm not sure, sometimes I feel like I get called before and sometimes after. But on slide 4, there's a topic that says credit earner intervention. And I wanted to talk about intervention. Obviously, you guys feel that both parents and staff should be a part of that. And I think it's important that we point out that it shouldn't just be in certain areas. So this topic that's going around about children being able to keep important information from their parents, like wanting to have a sex change or wanting to be called by a different name at school and not at home, and the parents not to find out. I think it's something that maybe we should learn to find a way to do some type of positive intervention where we could teach parents to be a little bit more understanding, how to speak to the kids about the topic, how to be more open about it, and for a child to understand that there's a difference between being a teenager, rebelling, and not wanting to tell your parents things and wanting to hide things, to teach them the difference of when it's positive and when it's not. Because true, there is abuse that happens out there. I'm not saying every parent 100% is going to have their child's best interest at heart. But by meeting with them and coming up with some type of program where we can bring them together, maybe that's a good way for everybody, parents, children, staff, whoever it is, to get a feel for what's really happening. I don't think that we should continue to promote separation in some things and then inclusion of parents and others. We should do it equally all the way across. Equity, is that what you call it? Give everybody the ability to have the same chance. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Bowman High School site report, Principal Nina Zamora. Welcome, we're glad you're here tonight. You've got the floor.
Thank you. I get this set up. I want to thank President Jensen. Good evening, Governing Board. Thank you for having me. Superintendent Kuhlman, district administrators. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to come and share all the great things about Bowman High School and our intervention program and credit earning. So I'll start with our current slide. Bowman has served 543 Bulldogs this school year. Our demographic data breakdown is predominantly 12th graders, predominantly male, and predominantly Hispanic. We serve several populations. About 15% of our population is special education. 9% are English learners. 15% are currently designated homeless. 30% of our students have work permits, and we have an excellent work experience program where students can also earn credits and take a work experience class. And 21% of our students were junior high school non-promotees. This data is important for me. Now, keep in mind, I was a math teacher for many years, so I love a good chart and great data, but the junior high school non-promotee component of that tells me that 21% of our students have been unsuccessful for a very long time and needed some level of intervention and have had some level of intervention for a long period of time. And those students all are phenomenally successful at Bowman. So in our program, beyond just the academics, our focus is always to build relationships with our students. Because when a student feels that you care for them, they work hard and they excel academically. So this year, my assistant principal, Mr. Herring, started, he did not know I was going to say this. So he started an intramural program on our campus for both soccer and basketball, so students participated. So the picture on the left is our soccer team, and you'll see that there is one female student who just did phenomenal. So in accordance with Strategic Plan 1.1 and 1.2, which is standards-based instruction, assessment tools that monitor student progress, meeting the needs of all students. This is where Bowman excels, because we really do wrap around and create such a safety net for each one of our students. They are with us because they were credit deficient at some point in time and were unable to recover it at their comprehensive high school. So in that, we work diligently to ensure that they're being successful. We meet with our students so frequently, and it's not just counselors, but administrators, teachers work with our students to monitor their credits, and all of our credit is asset-based. So what they've earned, they keep. We focus on standards-based instruction, and we're really working hard on also tailoring our grading and our instruction. Everything will be standards-based across the entire district, or across the entire school. But we have entire stakeholder involvement. So student, parent or guardian, counselor, administrator, social worker, therapeutic counselor, we have everyone involved to help support our students be successful. So the data that you see here that says population versus no mark data, because we don't have D's or F's. You've either earned credit to a standard of 70% or higher, or you have the opportunity to earn the credit so you get a no mark. There's no D's or F's. So if you haven't completed it or you haven't demonstrated mastery, we give you a no mark for the next term. It carries on. So what I look at with this data is whether or not we have huge discrepancies in what our population is versus who's earning no marks. And you'll see here that it's pretty consistent. There's not a huge gap in one bit of the population versus another. So our no mark data is pretty consistent with our student population. And here on the next slide, we can look at what our credit earning looks like. So this graph shows that 4% of our grades, and students get grades every term, so every 5-week grading period, our students earn permanent grades with variable credits. So this is 16 grades at least per student, and 4% of them were no marks. So it's a very small percentage of students that weren't earning credit. The other component we look at is those who are earning exactly what they should be earning, which is 2 to 2.5, depending on how length the term is, and then half to 1.5. So we look at each individual student and figure out the why. There's a lot of why. Why is a student absent? Why are they not performing? And what can we do to better support them? Because when we look at Strategic Plan 1, the goal 1.3, it's a multi-tiered system of academic support for all students. Bowman is in and of itself a tier 3 school. We are the last step. And within our last step, to help students graduate, we have several tiers within that as well. So what are we doing to help kids be successful and graduate from high school? So our average credit earning per term, you can see here, is actually doing very, very well. We have very few no marks, but we are working hard within our professional development to create consistent department policies regarding late work, retakes, and due dates. So that way all students have equitable access and ability to turn in things. We don't believe in that once it's due, we move past it. They can turn it in at a later date. It's based off of when the student understands the concept and the standard. So our no mark data over the last 5 years, and I looked at terms 1 through 4, so it's consistent with the data that I have today for you, which is last semester. has decreased from 14.7% no marks in 2018-19 school year down to 3.6, which is that 4%, just rounded up. So significant decrease in our no marks and increase in student credit earning. But when we have the students who are earning a half to 1.5 credit, like I said, we look at the why. And then we go into exactly what we need to do, which is support the student. We meet with counselors, administration, parents or guardian. We have intervention that we provide to students where they can earn additional credits and work towards their academic goal. We involve our social worker and our therapeutic counselor. We have attendance meetings and SSTs and initial IEPs and anything that we can do to figure out what we can do to help this student, each and every one, be successful. So this year, our staff and our parents and our students came together and we rewrote our mission statement to really encompass what Bowman is, and that we believe in the potential for each student to achieve through perseverance and opportunities for success. Our inclusive environment is one that focuses on respect, equity, kindness, and integrity. And while our motto is "You Matter," we also believe in every student, every day. So Bowman is special for so many reasons. Like Mr. Messina was talking about earlier, he could talk about Miss Hunter for hours about all of her attributes. I could speak for hours about how amazing Bowman High School is. But we really do, we focus on the social emotional component and trauma, we utilize trauma-informed practices in all aspects. 100% of our staff care for kids and demonstrate it in every day, greeting students when they come, interacting with students. So every staff member, from our office staff to our campus supervisors and our teachers and everyone in between. So we really do reconnect students to school and help them build academic success. Thank you. Can I add one more thing though? I want to thank you. I want to thank this board for voting to reduce the elective credits by 10 credits for our students. That is so impactful for my student body. 70 more Bowman students have the chance, have hope of graduating this school year because of that 10 credit reduction. So thank you so much for this.
Welcome. Board members, do we have any comments or questions?
Do we have any Bowman students here?
We absolutely do.
We do.
I would like to invite and introduce these two fine young men, Christian Ardila and Jaden Jackson. Come on up.
Have those speeches in their hands?
They have a little something to say. But these two gentlemen really represent what Bowman is about. Both of them are going to graduate early this year. Christian, you're at 9.5? 9 credits remaining. And Jaden has 13 credits remaining. And when they complete these, they will be both joining the Army.
Wow, very good.
Bowman has had a big impact on my success at school because of the staff members. They have pushed me to work harder and strive more. When they know that you're down, they find ways to help you go through it, and they boost your morale up. The teachers believe in the students' ability to be successful and work hard. Thank you.
Okay, so I mostly chose a word to speak about to represent our campus, and the word I chose was inclusivity. And I feel like on Bowman campus, I feel included in all events going on at school. And I can positively and proudly say that I have never felt excluded in any activity or in a classroom or when it goes to anything on that school. I feel like it's like school is like one big family. Like our school is like all together, and to me, the environment is so friendly and welcoming. It's just like a second home for me, and I feel comfortable within the campus, from the classrooms or to maybe hanging out at the quad at lunch, and I feel like we take every step together at Bowman. So, thank you.
So, you both chose the Army? Did you say you're going into the Army? You too? Why not the Marines? I just thought I'd ask. The other, what's that? Well, wait a minute. Wait. Did you put a speaker card in? So, a couple of quick questions for you. One is that you feel like Bowman, being at Bowman, kind of changed your life around, gave you the courage that you needed to succeed and move forward? Okay. Don't hide behind him.
I do.
You do. Okay. Do you feel safe at school?
I do. I feel very safe at school.
Okay. And as you said, you already said you felt like it's very inclusive, and do you feel that it's very inclusive and you got the support of your teachers and staff? All right, very good. Good luck to you guys. Really, stay safe.
Board, any other questions or comments? Dr. Moore?
I certainly have comments about Bowman, and I want to thank Ms. Zamora for the wonderful presentation, and I know that there are others in the audience from Bowman, so I just want to acknowledge all of you. So if can you stand so that we can acknowledge all of you? Some folks didn't stand. I'm seeing them, but hi. And I did that because I know that with Jaden. What Jaden said is we take every step together. He said a lot of things. Jaden and Christian. Okay. They both said a lot of things, but I love that we take every step together, because you can see that from your staff that's here and the support that is always visible when I'm on your campus. I see that it's not that student is your student. Everybody there is everybody's student, and we all take every step together. So I love that. Thank you for sharing the data, and I really appreciate, like you shared, we could spend hours and hours talking about the amazing things that happen at the Bowman campus. But for me, the most amazing is what you've said in your mission statement. And again, you see that when you're there and you feel that, is that it is about every student every day being successful. So congratulations, and looking forward to seeing those 70 additional students graduate this year and celebrating with these young men at graduation as well. And thank you for your early service in the Army. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Moore. Mr. Webb?
So, Mrs. Zamora, thank you for a wonderful presentation. I love the data. Also, I want to thank you for its simplicity. I was an English teacher, so I appreciate the ability, only a couple of colors to read. So I really appreciate that. Jaden and Christian, thank you for having the courage to come up here and talk to us. Jaden, you used the word inclusivity to describe Bowman. Is there another word? How does it make you feel when you walk onto campus?
Like almost like a team. I feel like it's a lot of teamwork used to work together at school. I feel like we all work together to make school a better place.
Great, thank you. And then Christian, how about you?
Safe.
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 Great. Well, I'm so glad to hear that. I actually would advocate the Air Force. I was born on an Air Force base. My dad was in the Air Force. So
Navy.
We all have our...
Navy.
Yeah. Well, he was in the Navy, couldn't handle ships, so he went on to the Air Force. But I just want to say that I know I'm going to feel a lot safer knowing that our country's defense is in your hands. So thank you for what you've done and what you will continue to do.
Surely.
I thank you. Okay. Thank you, and a lovely presentation. Bowman has a special place in my heart too, because many of my students went from Canyon when I was teaching there on to Bowman, and had great success. So it's very inclusive, but it also has the ability, because of the size, to help each individual student, where on the more comprehensive campus we don't. My brother was Army, 2 years. Wait. During Korea, and then signed himself up for 4 years in the Marines. So he served 6 years in 2 different, so I hope you have a great time in the Army, and I do appreciate your service. Thank you.
Student board member, did you have something you wanted to say?
I had a question for Christian. Can I call you Chris? Okay. I know them, so I usually call them Chris and Jaden. So I actually had a question for Chris and Jaden, and I've heard you guys talk about Bowman before and how wonderful and inclusive it is. And I was wondering if you guys had any advice or events or like just examples of things that you could think of that I could take back to my school to help kind of improve campus morale. Because Bowman's student body and Bowman's connection, it's really something special, and I want to learn from it. So that's my question.
For me, it's like our ASB. It's like a little family. It's like we always have like some after school things. We go out. Like, let's say we go out to lunch sometimes, or that's what I do sometimes. And we really just talk about. Like, we could like cheer people on in our ASB group.
Thank you, Chris.
Well, I'd have to say thank you for the lovely compliment about our ASB. I really appreciate that. And I would say you said advice, right? I'll say for advice, we noticed that we usually have like a table or a booth for students to come up to. And I feel like there's a lot of students that come up, but there's also a lot that don't. So I would say you maybe have like 1 or 2 people that come and gather the people that don't and bring them to the table. And I feel that will help a lot. That's what we noticed.
Thank you, Jaden. Thank you both. The presentation was amazing.
Jaden and Christian, thank you for your presentations and for your comments and for your future service to our country. Mrs. Zamora, thank you for the presentation. Thank you all from Bowman who came tonight. Bowman has been the model school in the state of California for many years, going back many years, and continues to be the model school under the leadership and work of all of you, students, teachers, principals. So we are grateful for all you've done, and we look forward to your continued leadership, not only in our district, but the state of California for many years to come. So thank you. Appreciate you being here tonight. Okay, next on the agenda is our public comments section. If you wish to address the governing board on a topic within the subject matter of its jurisdiction, please complete the request to address the board form and return it to the secretary to the board prior to the beginning of the item. Comments regarding the consent calendar will be taken during public comments. Please use the microphone and state your name. It's optional. No action will be taken on any item not appearing on the agenda, and the board president will limit your comments to 2 minutes. The president may limit public comment time based on the number of persons who wish to speak. If you wish to speak regarding an item that appears on the agenda, you'll be called upon to make your comments at the time when the item is discussed by the board. Our first speaker is Virginia Ryan. Following Virginia will be Lisa King, and following Lisa will be Carrie.
Good evening, everyone. I wasn't here last time, so Happy New Year. Hope everyone had a good Christmas. On December 16th, 2022, the Hart School District, my family, and all the Bowman students lost an amazing man. Excuse me, it's Richard Ortiz. I'd like to read his obituary because he was such a phenomenal person and was part of the district. Richard Philip Ortiz was born in Monterey Park, California on October 30th, 1960. To Robert and Dora Ortiz. He grew up in Alhambra, California with his brother Bob and sisters, Jerry, Jamie, and Roberta. Richard attended Ramona Elementary School and Mark Keppel High School. He played baseball in high school and college. He often told people that college was the best 18 years of his life. He attended several junior colleges and universities while playing baseball, and eventually graduated with a bachelor's degree from Azusa Pacific. Rich spent his life working with the youth. He worked for 25 years at 5 Acres, a residential facility for abused and neglected children in Altadena. Even the year he spent living in Hawaii with his wife Karen, who also is a teacher in the district. Early in their marriage was spent working with youth at the Salvation Army Home for Children. His last 7 years were spent working as a substitute teacher for the Hart District. It didn't take long for him to become a preferred sub for many schools, including my daughter. He was her substitute teacher. However, his art always belonged to Bowman High School. If you knew Rich, you knew he loved sports. He coached his sons, Jared and Mark, in baseball, and he also coached my son, and eventually coached freshman and junior varsity at West Ranch for 12 years. He loved sports, traveling, watching Westerns, and eating his favorite food at restaurants. The Dodgers and Raiders were his favorite teams, and some of his best memories were his trips to Vegas with his best friend, Michael. Richard loved life and brought light and happiness to those around him. He loved his family, and the birth of his granddaughter, Adiana, was one of the brightest moments of his life. He had such plans for his retirement and the things that he was going to teach her. Richard died with courage, dignity, and grace on December 16th after another short but aggressive battle with cancer. He died at home with his family around him. A lot of light left this world on that night. We will miss him terribly, but we know that Richard lives on in every one of us. So let us all remember all of those that devote themselves to teaching and our kids, and let us never forget Rich Ortiz. Thank you.
Thank you. Lisa King.
Good evening. I am glad to be here again with you this evening. I am here to support a lot of my special education colleagues and so grateful for their collaboration and things that we've done together throughout my years here as a teacher. I am very grateful for your listening ears and for your gratitude for what we do. It's not an easy job. I don't think teaching in general is an easy job, but what we do for a very vulnerable population is feels sometimes thankless, and I appreciate your appreciation for what we try to do every day. I have so many different concerns going through my head, and I've addressed them with a lot of different people in our district and at my site, and I've talked to a lot of different teachers. I feel like there's a need to step back and look at the structuring of special education and maybe make some time and thought to some overhaul. There's a lot going on that I think we've just become complacent with and have decided, you know what, this is just how it is and it's not much we can do about it, but I think there probably is. We just have to come together and collaborate and figure out what that looks like. We've had a lot of our non-public institutions shut down because of funding issues and because of COVID, and the students that went to those different organizations and establishments, they need something on our campuses because there's not enough places for them to go right now. So that's what I'm looking for, is some big changes. I'm continue to reach out and make our concerns known, but I'm here as a special education teacher loving what I do. So thank you so much for your support.
Thank you. All right, next is Carrie, and after Carrie is Connie Sintai, Santa Rivera, and Diane Zimmerman.
My name's not Carrie, it's Austin, and I do not have any pronouns either. In this committee...
Let me, is Carrie going to be speaking?
No.
Okay, thank you.
So does the time start over?
We haven't started it yet.
Okay. Let me know when the time starts, please.
No.
Okay, thank you. In this committee, what exactly is going on and being done about the use and exposure of narcotics in our school district? I am concerned about teens being surrounded, distracted by peer pressure or exposed at home, their neighborhoods, parties, etc. I'm also concerned about what's being done on who is monitoring the increase of homeless population in our communities and homeless people coming in contact with students walking home from under the influence of narcotics, including fentanyl. These affect students populated in areas of lower standards. These affect students in also lower income neighborhoods and other high-risk areas where police generally don't frequent as often. You know, I'm going to put this down. I'm just going to talk to you guys. I've had a few friends, sons that have died from fentanyl, from being in school. I want to know the mitigations that you guys are putting out. If a student does take fentanyl, what are you guys doing to help him out? Are you guys going to give him, I forget what the, Narcan? You guys have that on site? Okay, good. Now, I don't even know what's going on in the school board district. I mean, a lot of parents out there, they'll agree with me. We don't trust the schools anymore. You guys are all on the board. You know, I appreciate the ones that are here, that are doing their job, that are protecting our children and not teaching them these crazy CRT rules and this woke agenda that's going on. But I just want to know that our children are going to be safe under your guys' hands, because if something happens to them, it is on you.
Next speaker is...
And my name is Austin Wright. I represent the state of New California.
Next speaker is Connie Sintai, then Santa Rivera, and then Diane Zimmerman.
Good evening. I'd like to thank the board for allowing me to speak on behalf of some special education teachers. Our concern is the implementation of a 4-1-1 model where the teacher teaches 4 classes, has 1 prep period, and an additional period to handle their case management duties. We were under the impression that it was going to be negotiated this year, but that didn't happen. And we understand that the contract for next year will not be in place, most likely, prior to the school year starting. So what we're looking for is support from you that until it is in the contract, which is what we are hoping to strive towards, that we can get your support to at least implement it back at the schools. In addition to teaching, there are 28 additional duties that special education teachers are expected to do. Facilitate IEPs, write IEPs, consult with general ed teachers, counselors, psychs, consulting with the service providers like OT, speech and language, social workers, consulting with parents, phone calls, emails, goal reports every 10 weeks. Each student, if average 24 kids on a caseload, each student has between 3 to 7 goals. That's 72 to 160 goal updates that we need to do every 10 weeks. And we need time to collect data to do that. There is a whole list that is being passed around. I don't want to read all 22 of them. But my main concern is that our prep period is for writing, engaging, and differentiated lesson plans. It is not for case management. We need the extra period and extra time to do the job that we need to do. There will be 2 other
Bonnie,
speakers.
your time's up. Thank you.
There's 2 other speakers that also work with us.
Okay, thank you. Santa Rivera.
Hi, good evening again. So before I go into what I'm going to talk about, I want to thank the Lord for allowing me to be here, because I'm here to not only praise Him, but also I'm here to protect the children, as a previous speaker said, that are vulnerable, okay? Our children are vulnerable human beings that we are entrusting to you guys during the day. Also, too, Ms. Moore mentioned earlier during the Bowman presentation about how she appreciated or she liked how it was a very tight-knit, it seemed like they were very close at Bowman. Bowman is a smaller campus. Maybe we should consider that when we're filling the classrooms, that when there's a smaller amount of children in the classroom, it might be a little bit more like that, feel more like a family or a little close-knit. So going to now what I'm here to talk about, like I said, it's our children. We need to remember to speak to our children, talk to them, not just about drugs, not just about what's going on in school, not just about how their day went. We have to be more involved in one way or another. We have to find ways to be creative and ways to check on them. You know, we cannot allow what happened these past couple of years. I'm scarred from it, so I'm not going to stop bringing it up. We came to you and begged you guys to please consider the health of our children. And now everything that you guys shoved down our throats with your information and your papers are now being backtracked. So just remember that the next time you get some tyrannical rules brought down to you to then pass down to our children. We will not. Por favor, cuiden a sus hijos. Quiero darle gracias al Señor, a nuestro Dios, por tenerme aquí para poder proteger, ayudar a proteger a los niños. Tenemos que hablar con ellos, tenemos que poner más atención a lo que están aprendiendo, de todo lo que es, no nomás escuela, lo que está pasando con sus amigos, lo que está pasando con drogas, todo lo que está pasando con nuestros
Santa, your
hijos,
time's up.
encontrar la
Thank you.
manera de acercarnos. Thank you.
After Diane, it will be William Barnwell, Glenda, and Lauren Sperber.
The Signal, God bless them, fabulous voice for all points of view. They hold a town hall to discuss fentanyl and how to treat those that succumb to it through one illegal drug or another. Adult attendees are given a box of Narcan with instructions to use just in case. In other words, put a Band-Aid on a serious problem while letting the problem grow by voting in the very folks responsible for opening our borders and every criminal from all over the world to come in the first place. I am speaking of taxpayer-paid public service positions in every state. For instance, Board Member Moore got voted in again. This is a shame on the voters too lazy to look at the records and actions of those they vote for, because they sure do sound good. They sure do sound like they care about all of those young minds being poisoned against one another. Her complete support of the NAACP and Black Lives Matter supporters that speak out at meetings says it all. Have you thought how easy you are making it for young people to go ahead and try the drugs? If drugs backfire, there is an immediate cure if they get to you on time. I am all for having Narcan on hand. Just don't like the message it is sending through the, dare I say, devil. Come on, kids, go ahead, try it. It will solve all your problems. Please play down the Narcan just a tad and play up, teaching kids and adults the devastation brought on by using drugs and alcohol. Sharice Moore was the only one running for this board that was supported by the teachers union. An extremely high percentage of union money went to support Democrats across the board. Perhaps teachers' unions need to be reminded that politics is the last thing they should have any part of. But they should sure have a huge part in investigating the brainwashing seeping into their curriculum with excelling speed over the past 4 decades plus.
Diane, your time's up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, William Barnwell.
William Barnwell, good evening. 2 concepts here, fidelity and special education and teacher efficacy. Echoing the voices of my colleagues, given a long list of responsibilities, one can easily assess that it's difficult to efficiently provide our students given a limited amount of time. It is ongoing challenge and continuing concern, one that is not unfamiliar with special education. You see, we write IEPs that the student will receive targeted case management services, but not having adequate time to follow through on these services leaves us vulnerable to being out of compliance with any part of the IEP. This is a concern that should concern us all, fidelity. We also need adequate time for preparation to teach curriculum. When we're out of our classes to hold IEPs, we lose valuable instructional time. So I ask, when are we supposed to do all this with fidelity and at the same time maintain a level of sense of teacher efficacy when given just one prep period? In my doctoral research, I had an opportunity to interview SPED teachers across the country. Prompted by the concern that a growing shortage of SPED teachers, largely attributed to burnout, I wanted to know what experiences actually sustained their commitment to the profession. I found that the desire to make a difference and the opportunity to advocate for students were primary reasons that often centered on empathy and understanding of the challenges many of us students face. As special educators, we face many of our own challenges, one of which is time. This was a practical implication of my dissertation. As one participant stated, the concern I have is the time it takes to do our job well, and the time is not being given to us. Another teacher referred to the teaching as the paycheck of the heart, but with that said, they expressed the job is difficult. There is much asked of us. You're being pulled in several different directions, and one can only be pulled so much. So I ask you to consider the 411 model. Please help us meet our ongoing challenges facing the profession. Please help us to help those who are often most vulnerable. We need adequate time to provide for those students that we have the joy and responsibility
Thank you
to
for your
serve.
time. Okay, Glenda, then Lauren Sperber, and then Nancy.
First of all, I would like to thank Mr. Coleman, Schooners, Route 66 for helping us get to almost what we need for Saugus Band. Thank you, guys. We really appreciate that. Second of all, I'm going to finish this for Diane, and it says, I am not for putting down college. The real problem is that so many in charge today are results of CRT-infested curriculum. They really believe what they are doing is right. Fortunately, many college students are waking up and realizing they have been had and are doing something about it. I want to ask one question, and it had to do with my friend over there. Can somebody do something, with this board do something about the young man that died that was part of the school district? I think his name was Richard Ortiz. That would be really nice if you did something for him. The other thing is, I was approached by one of the board members when they were being inducted, and basically patted like, well, we had a grassroots campaign. Well, grassroots to me does not mean they're being supported financially and other by the NAACP or the schools unions. And I really do not like the fact that the school union representation are telling their members that they have to vote for a certain person. Let each person go out there and do what they need to do, and do not give them their money. And as far as raises, I'm listening to the teachers. They want 10%, give them 10%. I'm listening to classified, 8%, come on, give them the same amount. And I'll tell you why. Because classified are out there cleaning everybody's school desk, sanitizing everything so they do not get anything else going on. And Linda, I really don't appreciate you laughing out there. Guys, help these guys out. And again, thank you for this Saugus School Band.
Okay, Lauren Sperber, then Nancy, and following Nancy, Lynn Yell.
The 411 plan should apply to all SPED teachers in the district. At the end of the day, the district is asking us to do two jobs, teach multiple preps and manage a caseload. In addition, the schedule will help support co-teaching model by allowing more time to collaborate for teachers. We are not alone. The Covina teachers threatened to strike on this issue. Now in their contract, it states that grades 6 through 12 special education teachers should have one designated period in addition to their conference planning period, reserved for conducting case carrier duties. In summary, we work with some of the most diverse students in our district and want to do what is best for each of them. These students deserve teachers to have time to help them with their disabilities and to see them succeed, but we need time to do this properly. I implore the board to really and truly think about this. If you want to keep exceptional SPED teachers, which I think we all are, then you must help to prevent them from burning out. Spending countless hours after school or at home without pay does not promote proper mental health. I know we signed up for the IEP work when we became special ed teachers, but the workload is getting greater all the time, and the time to do it is now less. We get paid 0 minutes to service our special education students and hold or write IEPs. One 50-minute prep period a day, if I'm lucky to get that, is not enough time to get everything I need done. We're expected to do X amount of work, more than gen ed teachers, but are given the same amount of prep time. Which begs the question, are we allowing gen ed teachers to have extra time to rest, or expecting SPED teachers to just work extra hours? I, like all of my colleagues, am a professional. I use my time wisely. I work before school, during lunch, and after school, and I still feel like I'm playing catch up. It's discouraging that my family is impacted by having me get out of work late or needing to cut our bedtime routine early so I can complete an IEP. I love being a teacher. I love my students, but I hate that I have to ask myself, today, was I a good teacher or a good parent? Because there's just not enough time to be both. Thank you.
Thank you. Nancy, Lynn Yell, and then Carrie.
Good evening, board members and superintendent.
As I read through your governing board role and responsibility, bylaw 9000, there are two responsibilities that stood out. Number 3, ensuring accountability to the local community. And number 4, providing community leadership and advocacy at the local, state, and national levels on behalf of children, district programs, and public education. In the Hart District Teachers Association, the teachers union, their newsletter, The Voice, dated August 2022, Volume 74, Volume 1, page 3, under HDTA Bargaining Organization Survey, quote, "As is always the case, salary and benefits are the top priorities," end quote. Therefore, being endorsed by a teachers union almost appears to be a conflict of interest, especially to your constituents. President Jensen and Mr. Messina, may I again humbly thank you for being true to your role as governing board members and not loyal to the teachers union, but loyal to our children. And to all board members, we parents are watching you, and we will hold you responsible, accountable to your oath, to your role, and your responsibilities to the law. 1 Corinthians 15:25. For he must reign until he has put all his enemies under his feet, because God always wins. Thank you, and God bless our children, and God bless America.
Lynn Yell, Carrie, and then Dr. Akash.
Hi, I've been a special ed teacher since I started out as an instructional assistant back in 1991. I did this raising a family on my own. My husband passed away, so I know the time and effort we have to put in to not only teach, but to also take care of our students who have special needs. My time being spent between my family and school has switched. My kids have actually grown up. I don't have to spend that much more time with them, but I feel now that I lost a lot of time with them. The more I look back, even though our job was easier 25 years ago as a special ed teacher, I did lose a lot of time with them. I not only lost time with them, I would bring work to baseball games in triplicate forms to fill out information that was needed for an IEP to help our students. I now do that in the classroom late at night because I have to, I do my responsibility. I do my due diligence to help students, not only just mine, but all students, even the ones that come in and I teach 4 periods a day. So I want the board to understand, and the district, that we are doing this. We're doing it with no pay, but we know our responsibility and we are good teachers. So if you can consider helping us with giving us some time to actually service our students so we don't go out of compliance, that's a big issue also. We appreciate whatever you can do. So thank you again. This is the best district to ever be in. Yes, there's other districts that support their special ed a little bit stronger, but we appreciate that we have this board and district behind us. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Lynn. Okay, Carrie, Dr. Akash, and then Cindy.
So I wanted to come back up here just to kind of raise awareness that there have been 4 shootings at the Valencia Mall Westfield Center. And I feel that's a big issue because I frequent that area because of the business that I do. And I see a lot of the Hart District school students over there shopping and with their friends. And I think it's really important that we raise awareness to what's going on in our communities. The increase of violence, homelessness, drug use, trade, you know, and what is our environment surrounding what's going on in our community. I think we need to really understand what's going on and really have a communication with the parents at home, faculty and staff, and just understanding keeping the environment safe in Santa Clarita, where they're frequenting with their friends, where they're going shopping, where they're at. It's just not protecting the kids in the safety of the school system, but also their lives that they spending their money and time with their families in this community. So I just wanted to come up and raise awareness to that issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Dr. Akash, then Cindy, and then Deborah after that.
Hi, respected board members, Superintendent Kuhlman, and all the community members. My name is Dr. Akash Ahuja, and I'm a board-certified psychiatrist. At the last board meeting, I spoke about the ill effects of TikTok and how our schools should act to stop its use. I got a call from Superintendent Kuhlman informing me that kids cannot access TikTok from the school's Wi-Fi connection. Thank you. If there is one thing common in this whole room, it is that every parent wants their kid to be happy, healthy, and successful. Not trying to be super technical, but would like to mention that there is a chemical in our brain known as dopamine, which is released when we do activities that give us happiness. Now, our kids get their natural dopamine when they play outdoors with their friends, go hiking, shopping, spend quality time with family, learn new things, achieve academic success in school, etc. On the other hand, the same chemical, dopamine, gets released in extremely high amounts when kids get instant gratification on social media sites like TikTok, Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, YouTube, Pinterest, Spotify, Twitter, Discord, etc., where their whole focus of happiness is to get more likes. Whenever they get a like, they feel happy. When they don't or get a negative comment, which they do, they feel anxious and sad. They will keep on checking if they get more likes or not. Very quickly, kids get entangled in this vicious virtual world where their happiness depends upon social media accolades only. I urge the board members to put on an agenda to discuss this critical topic, not only to make policies so that the use of social media can be significantly reduced, but to also educate our kids about this. Thank you. God bless USA.
Okay, Cindy, Deborah, and then Joseph Dory.
Thank you for honoring Black History Month and recognizing their achievements. It makes me proud that America is showing that we are not a racist nation. Moving forward, we need to work on where we have failed. 70% of American students are struggling and behind in real education. For the last 2.5 years, the focus has only been on race, division, and pronouns. All over America, parents are realizing that they can't trust the schools and understand real education is not the priority. Every school board has members who only care about the political, demonic ideologies, but yet pretend to care. Excuse me. The Hart School Board is not unique, and some are here. Mr. Webb, you have said, watch what you say as students are watching. But sir, you seem to be okay with the same students viewing porn in schools and libraries. I know you're aware of this because we have stood here expressing our concerns regarding this. Mr. Messina has only been the one that has been fighting for this. This is why most of the parents and students stand with him. You only challenge him, and we all wonder why. Since parents are watching, this is to them. Parents, you are your children's cavalry. Get more involved. Get groups of parents together and view the books that they are viewing in schools and libraries. You must stand up before it's too late. They are after your children. These demonic ideologies are in schools because they want to destroy our youth. I can assure you they are not pushing this in retirement homes. Now is the time to teach them the real book, the book that doesn't lie, and it's called the Bible. God bless you.
Okay, next is Deborah, Joseph, and then our last speaker is Taylor Hufford.
Okay, first thing, let's ditch that timer. That's not fair. I just got my shortage on my escrow for mortgage. I've been out here 39 years, and it was $4,000 shortage on my escrow account because we're putting it into the school system, I hope. Now, I want to talk about social media. One of the citizens, Diana, I think, brought up the sexualization of our children. The social media has to be scratched. I've been studying Chloe Cole and some of the other detransitioners on the sexualization. They've had their breasts cut off and other genitalia, and they've had puberty blockers and all kinds of things that they cannot reverse. And everybody needs to start becoming aware that the sexualizing of our children has got to stop. Right away, right away, because they're changing their sex. They're doing it on social media. And we really need to pay attention here because they're deciding, they're not even being allowed, the parents are being threatened with child protective services and all kinds of other things, at jail time and everything, because you guys and your social workers are deciding what happens to our children while I have a $4,000 shortage on my escrow account. You guys got to get cracking here. Eliminate that timer or expand our time out here. We're paying you. This is crap, okay? I am representing New California State. We're going to be the 51st state, and we're going to stop this nonsense. Thank you.
Joseph Dory, and then Taylor Hufford. Go ahead, Joseph.
I appreciate everyone's time here. I'm Joe Dory. I'm a psychology instructor at UCLA and also a resident of Santa Clarita. I grew up here. My father came to this city for the education, and I believe we've made a lot of progress. And I know that there are a lot of heat and energy, and I want to respect everyone's space here and say all these factors are important. And I know many people are making much effort. So I just want to commend all of you and thank everyone for their concern. I think this is very important. So with just the 1 minute, 30 seconds left, and appreciate your time. So this is, of course, so I'm a psych student. I went to COC, Hart High School, phenomenal place, loved it, and I caused a lot of hell for them all. So I apologize for my past. But as you all know, depression and anxiety are very high. And it's not really gone down any. And so I know we're making wonderful efforts, and perhaps one other effort to consider when due time is that providing a mental health survey to students. A free mental health survey that's confidential and actually even anonymous, and they get feedback on their social support, parent relationships, faculty relationships, and then from there they're provided with actual numbers that say, you know, this is an area that you could work on to make even better. And so they also provide resources. And so this has been backed by psychology professionals at Stanford University, Harvard University. You could learn more at the nonprofit. It's a 501c3, and it's called thegoodstudent.org. It's called thegoodstudent.org. Make sure it's a ORG and not a, I don't know, are we using XXX for the pornography? I don't know, but make sure it's a little humor, ORG. So thank you for that. You have to see a TED Talk. Humor goes everywhere, but you won't find any things like that. So, but I appreciate everyone's time. And again, thank you so much for your efforts, because it has really been, you know, phenomenal and a blessing. And everyone, thank you so much. So
Thank you.
Have a great one. Thank you.
Okay, our last speaker is Taylor Hufford.
Taylor, before you start, thank you for allowing me to say this. Just a reminder to folks, we were welcome to accept your papers. Please either put them in the basket there, or you can bring them over to Miss Hunter. You don't want to actually be walking straight up to the but perfect. Thank you so much. Okay.
Oh, my name is Taylor Hufford, and my pronouns are she, her. I'm a registered behavior technician working in the Behavior Intervention Unit under the Special Education Department. We work with students who are exhibiting frequent and intense maladaptive behaviors which impede their ability to engage in curriculum and receive an education consistently. I first wanted to extend my apologies for not being present at the previous board meeting to speak with you in person. On Wednesday, I supported a student who engaged in intense maladaptive behaviors, which left me emotionally drained and not in a place mentally to speak to you in public. Many classified staff who work with students each day would like to be present at board meetings but truly do not have the mental capacity after their workday or have outside commitments, including second jobs, to make ends meet. I sent you all a letter via email this past week and wanted to follow up with you all about it. One of my job responsibilities is collection, organization, and visual display of data. We collect data to hypothesize the function of students' behavior, identify trends, and report progress on goals. So I'll let the data speak for itself. I polled the 85 SPED staff members who signed the attached letter. 100% of them agreed they are in support of the CSEA negotiations team advocating for a step 6. Special education is not for everyone. Those of us who are in the field understand this. We want to ensure we are attracting quality candidates who are committed to our students' success and happiness. When I train a classified staff member on a student's behavior support plan, I work with them for hours upon hours. I want the staff I'm working with to be qualified and paid fairly for their well-being. When asked if they felt The most recent CSEA negotiations proposal was equally fair and offered benefits to both seasoned and green classified staff. 95% reported they believed it benefited both parties. Of those polled, 59% of the staff have worked at the district 5 years or less, and 41% have worked at the district more than 5 years. As you can see, the polled staff are diverse in the years worked for the district and still support the proposal. Many other positions in our district are granted us beyond a step 5. Why are we not? We are vital to the district operating each and every day.
Taylor, your 2 minutes are up. Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to move on from public comments now to our information items. And our first information item is strategic plan update. We do have one speaker. So we'll go with the speaker first before Mr. Kuhlman introduces this topic. Santa Rivera.
Hello again. So I wanted to talk, I think it was slide 7, and in there, the first bullet point mentions programs to support the varying needs of all of our diverse students. Varying needs include safety. I've been hearing a lot of people bring that up again. Safety of our children is very important. There's been a lot of change in the past few years, and I think that finding ways of keeping the children safe and parents feeling that they're safe, like we said about the officers, I had mentioned that before, having them going up and down in the mornings and in the afternoons. I have noticed some more officers when I take my daughter to school in the morning, so maybe that has changed. I had mentioned in previous emails, I had asked for Freedom of Information Act for some statistics. Obviously, you guys like to give us graphs. So I would like that information on what's been going on as far as the fights and incidents, maybe incident reports that have happened in the Hart District, maybe from 2015 to 2022. I'd like to get that information. I've been asking for it for almost a year now. So if there's any way that I can get that information, I think that would help me come up with some better ideas on helping you guys support the different needs for these students. And one of my priorities is their safety. It's not just about violence. A lot of people are bringing up the drugs. There's a lot of things going on. More parents want to be involved. Thank you.
Thank you, Santa. Okay, we're going to have Mr. Kuhlman introduce our strategic plan update.
Yes, a big moment for us. This fall, our governing board adopted a strategic plan to guide our work toward continuous improvement across the next 5 years. And the plan consists of 5 focus areas that include student learning and instruction, safety and wellness, access and equity, financial and human resources, and communication and collaboration. We have committed to sharing with this board and the community our progress on this plan at least once annually. And to do that, we will be sharing a brief overview of one of these focus areas at each of the next 5 meetings. Tonight, we will hear about the work that has begun in the area of student learning and instruction. And Dr. Vieira will share an overview of what we are attempting to accomplish in these focus areas, while the members of his team will share some examples and some highlights. The governing board and our community can explore the details of our work on the document that has been attached to this agenda, and hard copies, I believe, are available. Is that correct? Okay. But in the interest of time, we will not review every last detail here in this presentation. But before we begin, I want to turn before I turn it over to Dr. Vieira, I want to take a moment to define a word that you will hear throughout this document. And that word is equity. I believe it's important that we take a moment to carefully define equity because to not do so, I believe we risk confusion. Folks sometimes ascribe meaning to that term based upon what they are hearing and what's happening in other locations throughout our country. For example, we heard news recently about national merit scholar issues in other locations. And so our definition in the Hart District is important for you to understand what our objective is here in our district. Our definition of equity means that we are making sure that every student has the resources and support they need to be successful. Let me repeat that. Equity means making sure every student has the resources and support they need to be successful. And through our strategic plan, we've made a commitment to the goal of every student becoming opportunity ready. But I think it's important for us to acknowledge, to recognize that not every child needs the same resources. Not every child needs the same support. And it does involve, it does not involve the lowering of standards to ensure that there are an equality of outcomes, but it does involve maintaining high standards, but recognizing that some children need additional support. And to illustrate this, I wanted to tell just a very brief but timely story that involves my own experience. When I was a principal at Placerita Junior High School, I was introduced to one of my favorite people, a counselor that works now at Hart High School. And this individual shared her life story. Her parents were immigrants from Mexico. They came over, they were not college graduates. They had no idea how you go through that process of applying to college, what it means to go to college. They worked in the fields, they were agricultural workers. And this individual, she was a great student, but outside of the school day and on vacation, she herself worked in the fields. I recall she talked about picking onions. Well, came time for her to actually graduate, close to graduation time, and it was time to consider applying for college. And again, remember, she had parents that hadn't been through this process. And she had a counselor that worked with her, that saw her potential, and literally pulled her aside and handed her an application to an institution called Stanford, and told her, I'm going to lock you in my office until you complete this application, and when you are done, we're going to go through this application together, make sure that you've checked off all the right boxes, taken care of everything. They did that. She applied, and she was accepted. She went off to Stanford. She received her degree, and she decided to become a school counselor, and now she works back in the Hart District. And I think it's timely to share with you that tonight she is actually leading a presentation for the parents of children that are in our schools, parents who have never been to college themselves and need to understand what the protocols, what the path is to get there. So that's an inspirational story, but I want to tell you the story of my own sons. My sons had the benefit of having two parents who have been to college. And so when the time came for us to apply for colleges, we knew, that you had to pay attention to timelines, and there's this thing called FAFSA that you have to take a look at, and how applications work, and letters of recommendation, and we could walk them down that road. In fact, we are blessed with the resources in recognition of the fact that sometimes your children hear things from other people better than they hear it from you. And so we hired people on the outside to actually take a look at their applications, and they filled those out, and they applied, and they were accepted, and so they're off in college. The point being, high standards, correct? We're talking about students having access to go off to university. But some students don't have the same supports in place that others do. And if our goal truly is to ensure that every student leaves us opportunity ready, then there needs to be a recognition that not every student starts from the same place, and that we need to make sure that we fill those gaps to make sure that every child has an opportunity. So that is how we define equity, and maybe it's a better way of understanding it as we go through this presentation. Thank you for letting me take a little moment, and I will turn it over to Dr. Vieira.
Thanks, Mr. Coleman. That was a great lead into our presentation tonight. And as Mr. Coleman said, over the next, 5 weeks, we'll be having presentations on key themes from each of the initiatives in each focus area, initiatives in each focus area. And we're going to go through the same format. For each of the initiatives, we're going to revisit the purpose, what the initiative actually means, to make sure we're all on the same page. We're going to go over our expectations, what we intend to accomplish. We're going to go over our current work, and we're going to give one example or one exemplar that we're currently been working on and already had achieved some success in. So that's kind of going to be the format tonight, but I'm going to ask John to go to the first slide here. And what I'll do is, as different members of the Educational Services team comes up to present on each initiative, I'll introduce them when they come up. But to kind of frame the whole work, I know this is a 5-year strategic plan, but it's really what we're looking at it is a cycle of inquiry where we're keep coming back to the work we're doing and really get into our data and trying to get better as we go. So we're never really there. As Mr. Coleman mentioned, it's really about high expectations for all of our students with whatever support structures are needed for each individual student. And we've got all kinds of fantastic work going on across our district, but it's really trying to align our work to get people on the same page so we can leverage our resources, both human and financial. Also, we mentioned that we really want to start enhancing and using our data and finding those high leverage points to continue our work and to have that continuous improvement cycle and really talk about this professional learning, which we've done a lot in our ADCO and our Admin Academy this year, which members of my team are going to go over very specifically. Starting off, I'd like to introduce Mr. Dave LeBaron. He's our Director of Curriculum Instruction. He's going to hit our first initiative in this focus area.
Good evening, Board. Administrators, it's a pleasure to be here tonight. My goal tonight is to walk us through Area 1.1, Standards-Based Instruction and Common Assessments. When we looked at that, there were 3 things we thought were absolutely crucial and needed to happen in order for us to do that well. And they are, as you list under the purpose, A, provide a common curriculum for all students. That means every student in all classes across the district. Whether you go to Canyon, Hart, Saugus, English 10 is English 10 wherever you are. That's what that means. 2, monitor student achievement. We need to see how our students are performing on those classes or in those classes that they're learning. Those are common assessments. And 3, improve instructional practices. Those are the 3 large goals we see in this area we have to achieve in order to be successful here. How do we accomplish that? Well, as you can see, the first thing is essential standards. Essential standards are absolutely crucial in all content areas. What they are, essential standards are the information, the knowledge, the skill set, the understanding that students need to leave a class with. That's what makes a standard essential or not. And our job needs to identify those standards and then use those standards to create curriculum guides. Curriculum guides are roadmaps for instruction. They tell teachers what needs to be covered in class, not the how necessarily, but the what. And they're derived from the essential standards. If it's not essential, it may not be that important to focus on in the class. So essential standards lead us to curriculum guides. Now, if you were to visit us or work groups coming up in the spring, what would you see us doing to accomplish that? 2 things in particular. Number 1, you'll see our groups creating or updating curriculum guides. We already have some, and I'll show you one in a moment, but we want to make sure we have one for every content area. That's part of the task we're going to accomplish as we go forward to meet this goal. Number 2, common assessments. We need to be able to ensure that we can assess what's happening in English 9 at Rancho Pico compared to English 9 at Oro Seco. And those are things we need to develop and be able to use to gather data. So if you understand the process, then speaking of cycles, that we have common curriculum. We assess the performance of our students and how they're doing that common curriculum so we can then improve our instructional practices. There's a cycle there that works around and around and around if we do it well. Now, an exemplar of example. As I said, we already do this for several classes. We have it done already for several classes. Let me share with you one example. This, if you go, it's posted online at the Curriculum and Assessment page on the district's website. Here's a snapshot of it. Let's go to it. This is the Curriculum Assessment page. On the right-hand side, you'll see quick links. The bottom says Curriculum and Guides. Let's go there. And it opens up to this page here. And on this page, you'll see curriculum guides are already in place that are being used across the district in these classes for both junior high and high school. You'll see our ELA, ELD ones for 7th through grades 11, and then social studies for both 7th and 8th, as well as for high school. Let me share one with you. I mentioned grade 10 English. Let's go to that, open that curriculum guide. When it opens, you'll see the roadmap I'm talking about. This is the curriculum guide. And it's broken up into 4 pages. On that page, you'll see, for instance, on top, My Perspectives. That's our curriculum that we purchased. That's the book students have and teachers use. 10th grade curriculum for this current school year. Broken up into 4 sections. The first section on the left, required texts and activities. Those are the things teachers are expected to teach in English 10. The middle section, you'll see teacher choice. That doesn't mean in lieu of the first column. It means along with the information and items in the first column, they now can choose how they attack these things under that column. In the third column, you'll see the novel, recommended novel, Jekyll and Hyde. They may not read the whole novel, they may read sections of it, pieces of it, but I should have mentioned this earlier. You'll notice that if you look at the unit title for unit 1, it is Inside the Nightmare. And the essential question is, what is the allure of fear? What better book to read to address that? Jekyll and Hyde. On the final column, you'll see where required assessments or benchmarks. Some are required, some are not. And we have 4 of these. If we scroll down, there's quarter 1, there's quarter 2, there's quarter 3, and there's quarter 4. And every quarter has a roadmap for teachers to use, and that is a curriculum guide or a roadmap for teachers. At this point, I turn over to the next speaker, and Dr. Vera.
Thank you. Next we have Jan Dasher, who's our Director of Special Programs, and she's going to review Initiative 1.2, Equitable Grading Practices.
Thank you. The purpose of Initiative 1.2 is to establish district-wide equitable grading practices that focus solely on student learning. Grading is a form of communication measuring what students know, have demonstrated, or what they can do with the knowledge and new skills that they acquire. So to develop consistency, we have been having collaborative conversations among teachers to agree upon exactly what an equitable system looks like. It's important that a student's education is not based on winning or losing the lottery of which teacher they get in their schedule, where one would be an easier grader and one would be a harder grader. So we need to be able to assure students and their parents that each student has equal access to the same high-quality education and accurate reporting of what they've learned, regardless of what teacher they are assigned. Much of this work starts by developing common rubrics, which give students a clear understanding of exactly what is expected of them and how their work and level of achievement will be graded. Many teachers have been creating and using rubrics with their students for years to provide detailed learning targets for them, but we are now increasing that practice across the district. Equally important is the concept of providing timely, clear, and effective feedback throughout what they're learning. This goes beyond just checking an assignment for completion or whether it was turned in on time. Feedback provides a meaningful exchange between the teacher and the student about their progress and how they can improve and increase their learning. Feedback also gives the student an opportunity for reflection and strengthens their ability to control their own learning. Ultimately then, student progress will be measured in equal grading increments, focusing on student growth in the learning process. This reporting system shows student achievement in terms of beginning, intermediate, proficient, or mastery of content and performance standards. Even within our current grading system, using letter grades of A through F, we will build in these descriptive levels of proficiency to more accurately describe how much a student has learned and how they are progressing as an individual. So one example of this work that we're doing is the book study on Grading for Equity by Joe Feldman. The picture you see right there are teachers at Valencia voluntarily meeting and going through the book with their instructional coach, also the English department chair, guiding them through chapter by chapter as they're having collaborative conversations. We did it all last year in our administrative council meetings, our ADCO, with principals, directors, and all cabinet members, the entire book, great conversations. And what I love about this book is that the international educational experts out there have all put their research together. It's like one synthesis of the research that's already been done for us. And it takes us through a historical look about where grading started and then how it can transform education for our students from this point forward. So that's one example of what's going on that I think is going to be really important for our teachers to come together on the same page as we really want to find consensus. Equitable grading systems are not about telling them how to do it. It's about discovering what works, what's non-negotiable, and how we really can turn those grades into focusing on measuring the level of student learning for each student.
Thanks, Jan. Now I'd like to invite up Matt Hinsey. Matt's most recently been doing a lot of work with our COVID, obviously, program, and now it's transitioning to doing some work with our new student data system and also overseeing summer school. Matt's going to talk about our multi-tiered system of support and intervention.
Great, thank you. So our next part of the focus area in the district's strategic initiatives is to build that multi-tiered system of support and intervention. Our goal is obviously to provide a comprehensive support system for all our students, no matter what their individual needs are. This is an important step to closing that achievement gap and helping for all our students reach their full potential. First, what we intend to accomplish is develop that comprehensive intervention program that will provide those multi-level supports for our students. And this will ensure that students have access to all those resources they need to succeed in the classroom. So one of the things we're working on is training our staff in the response to intervention approach, or RTI. This structured and systematic method will help our teachers and staff provide targeted support to students throughout the school day, ensuring that they have the tools they need to succeed. So an example of a comprehensive program is bringing all our summer programs together that we've had in the past, and I'm playing off the mantra of the every student opportunity ready, and we are coordinating these under one single umbrella called the Summer Opportunity Session. And what you see on the screen is under this umbrella you have our many summer programs like traditional summer school partnered with Opportunities for Learning, for credit recovery and some credit advancement. We have our grant-funded summer programs like Summer Impact and our CTE programs for our students in junior high and those entering the high school, as well as a program to support our high school newcomers, English learner newcomers. Lastly, working with our special ed department, we have the extended school year element for special education students as part of their IEP. These programs are going to run primarily in the month of July. The Summer Impact and Newcomer programs are actually going to start in June. You know, under this menu of programs that we have here, we can place students, our counselors and our educators can place the students in the program that would fit them best, and putting this all under this one umbrella will give a nice, efficient, productive manner to that. So currently we're finalizing some of the details of what classes specifically that we're going to be having, and we're going to roll this out to the school community this month.
Thank you, Matt. And now I'd like to invite up Mr. John Carino, our Director of Technology Services, to review 1.4 technology.
Thank you. Good evening. So Initiative 1.4, the purpose is to utilize technology effectively to engage students and support learning. And while there are multiple actions in this initiative, so the two I wanted to mention tonight were that we're going to continue to evaluate and provide online programs to support instruction, as well as to provide easier access to data related to student learning. And so the second one is really where I want to focus tonight. As you may remember, the last board meeting, the board approved the purchase of custom data visualization from Custom Tech, and I showed you some slides or a couple screenshots of dashboards from that program. And again, that system is going to allow us to provide a user-friendly way for administrators and staff to access and download data specific to monitor student progress, attendance, behavior, grades, assessment, and more. And so tonight, I actually have a short video I'd like to show you, which kind of shows how interactive and intuitive the system is once we build it out. Now, this is just demo data. This is not ours. We're still in the initial stages of the implementation, but it'll give you a quick view into it.
Custom Tech DataViz is the most flexible dashboarding solution available to Infinite Campus clients. Our dashboard homepage provides users the ability to configure their own collection of data views to help them stay informed on a daily basis. The system provides a curated collection of views and dashboards to ensure consistent use of data across the district, and it also allows administrators to create and distribute dashboards that address local data needs. The system uses the Infinite Campus security model to limit access to dashboards and data to which users have been granted rights.
Go, back to you, sir.
So to try to tie it together and in closing, again, what we're trying to do is have a district frame that aligns all of our work, still allowing the school sites to have flexibility. Some of the ways we're doing that is we're going through a process over the next couple of months where all of our school sites develop a school plan that's related to the strategic plan, also tied in Title I and LCAP. We've started this third quarter with all of our all of our principals, where this is what evaluations will be based off. If you see, it is from the strategic plan. It's got every focus area, all the initiatives, and then there's specific goals and activities that they have brought to us that they would like to do at each school site. And then there's also indicators. How are we going to measure the success? And then, John, if you could pull up the other one. As cabinet members, we visit a minimum of quarterly with principals that we work with, and we're going to be reviewing this document with them. So we're going to be specifically looking at the data and seeing how things went for the quarter and what adjustments need to be made. So a couple of examples of how we're trying to align our work and have everything focused and efficient going down the same path in our strategic plan. As I mentioned before, we'll be doing this work at the next couple of admin academies for each of our school sites, not just Title I, but each of our school sites working on school plans. Again, we're trying to have the needed support for all of our students for those rigorous expectations. Again, we're trying to be data-driven. John just brought up this new program that we're very excited about. And John Minkus and I have talked about this a lot. We're trying to set up a structure for our district, but still allowing the creativity of the teachers at the school sites, because they know the students, they work with them on a daily basis. We're not trying to tell teachers what to teach every day, but we do want to have the same frame so that, as people have mentioned, some of my team members have mentioned coming up here today, regardless of the school or the class they're in, they're going to get that same rigorous curriculum. I like to use the phrase common in diverse means. We all want to get to the same place, but it can be a diverse way we get there. And again, that place is wherever the student wants to go. It's that minimum, a high expectation, a rigorous curriculum, and then it's that phrase we keep using, every student opportunity ready. We could entertain any questions, but I also like to introduce two members of our Ed Services team, Arian Wilson, who's our ELD program specialist, and we're going to hear from her in a few minutes, actually, in a presentation. And of course, everyone knows Dr. Carolyn Hoffman, who presented at our last governing board meeting.
Questions or comments from the board? Mr. Webb?
Thank you for the information, Ms. Deschner. Doesn't mean the rest of you are off the hook. No, I'm just kidding. Thank you for the information about the common assessments and the grading. My question is, what are we doing, or what will your offices be doing, or the schools, to communicate this information to families? And I bring this up because, as a teacher, I've gone through different levels of grading, but many of our families, they just know A through F. What does it mean for college? What does it mean on the GPA? So I'm wondering what might be out there, or what you might be thinking about to communicate with our families on equitable grading practices.
So I first go to our school that's out in front, and I know you have some experience with Castaic High School, and a little bit. They found that was one of the pieces they had to front load. Communication with parents whenever anything is new or anything changes is critical. And it takes a lot of massaging the kinks of people setting aside what they know from their own history, because we all grew up with how education was done to us and the history of A through F and 100 points and chasing points, and do I get points for this, and does this matter, and is it in all of that language that we have to have a complete mind frame and shift away from and into the language of student learning and changing our academic vocabulary. But it does take a lot of conversations. Castaic has a lot of models that they've given to every school that I use with administrators in ADCO especially, to say, here are the bumps in the road that they experienced, and so we need to learn from that and do better. Front load as much as possible, but then walk them through it. And then my second idea is that I think 7th grade teachers have the easiest job in this, because students come in from elementary school already understanding what standards look like. When they get a report card from any of our elementary feeder districts, it'll say something like, student can cut with scissors, student can divide fractions. It talks about their abilities and what they can do. That's standards-based instruction and grading. And then it gives them either a letter, maybe a U, an N, an S, or a level or a number, 1, 2, 3, 4. It doesn't say you got an 87, you got a 52. Those numbers don't mean anything unless you actually look at the entire assessment or the assignment or the project. But if we have proficiency levels like they do at the elementary level, and then the 6th graders come in and as 7th graders we carry that on, we're just changing the language. Maybe they use the word emerging and we use the word developing, but they'll understand the system of looking at progress for student learning rather than we have to, what we do now, where they come in 7th grade and we say, throw away what you know. Now we're going to teach you about 100 points. And the 7th graders go, what's 100 points? What does that mean? The parents know, because we grew up in that system, but as kids are going through it at younger ages, parents are experiencing that with them too. So I think that transition is a little easier. And I'd like to focus on the junior highs, especially for getting them through. It doesn't mean the high schools get to wait. It just means I think they have a little easier path.
Thank you. I appreciate
Welcome.
that. I just, you're absolutely right, going from, and then also, you know, in elementary schools, we have the benefit of conferences.
Yes.
So we get that, you know, as well. And I think that it is important that we front load and have that. And I do agree that 7th grade would be an excellent starting point, and then build that momentum so that it continues in high school.
And we already do a lot of work with the 6th grade orientations coming in, whether we call it 7th grade orientation, but I had been a junior high principal, and we filled that Hart High School auditorium with parents who were sending kids to us. That's the perfect place to start and say, this is what it's going to look like, and then do the same thing when they're going off to 9th grade, where we fill the auditorium again. It's not as big a transition from junior high to high school, but you still have a very captive audience to say, here's how it continues now as you go through.
Right. And I do like the idea that it's asset-based rather than
Yes.
deficiency.
Absolutely. I love that.
Because what are you building on rather
Right.
than what is it that you're missing?
Exactly right.
So, thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Moore, did you have a comment or a question?
I do.
Okay,
Thank
please
you,
go.
Mr. Webb, and thank you, Mr. Jensen. Thank you for the presentation, Dr. Vieira. Just some clarifying questions. This is really exciting, and as you know, one of my hopes and goals is that the strategic plan would be the roadmap that drives us forward, and that what's in place isn't something that, you know, is gray. It's very clear where we're going and where we're headed, and I believe it does that. And so I wanted to clarify some things and ask a few questions. One, I know that we were given this sheet here that has the focus area, the action steps we're taking, and the progress. And my understanding is that those gray areas represent pieces that we believe we've accomplished. Is that accurate?
No, that's just intended to distinguish between the two. Yeah, just for your
Okay.
eyeball to be able to see a little clearer.
Okay, that is great, because I was looking at some of the pieces with the progress measures, and as I looked at those that were gray with what we had in there, for example, the grading for equity book, book study with admin and teacher leaders, my question was, where are we with that? Is that done? And is that all campuses? Is that, where are we at with it? And what's next with that? That was one of my questions.
I'll start there for you. Every principal went through it, and then we got some new principals this year. So then I did some review at the beginning of the year with them, and then they also ordered books for their staff. It hasn't been a mandatory, it's just been an incredible movement. So I would say, yes, it's on every single campus, but some campuses have said, I need 50 books, and some said, I need 12. So some principals felt a little more comfortable starting it on a smaller scale with just their leadership team, and then other schools said, no, we're gonna make sure every department is going through this, and we're gonna make it a focus of our professional learning. So we haven't let it go, but it's not done yet. It's definitely in progress, and then I keep checking back with them on how it's going. And sometimes I've gone out to the site and participated with them.
Great, great, thank you. And then, I guess similarly, as I looked at the first one, Mr. LeBaron, on the curriculum guides, and thank you very, very much for walking through on the website to show everyone where you can find our curriculum guides. And my question there related to progress is, what, our plan is a 5-year plan. How do you see the guide development? Because I know you said if you looked at what we're doing now, this is what we're doing. Every year, where do you look to see sort of progress points that are tangible, that I should be able to look up here by this time next year and see 12 more?
Great question. And one of the variables that comes into the timeline is new curriculum. And so one of the reasons that we're not jumping in all over every content area now, because we're getting new curriculum on a regular basis over the next couple of years. For instance, this year, new social studies junior high and high school, new math junior high. And so as we bring those in, we'll then develop those curriculum guides for the new curriculum, because we'll let them have that for 7-8 years. And so when you see new curriculum coming in, you should be able to ask me, where are we in the development of the curriculum guides for that new curriculum? And every year as we go through it over the next few years, that will be tied to bringing in new curriculum.
So at the end of 5 years, what should we see?
Every core area having curriculum guides, having everything that we talked about tonight in every core area. I'll lay it out there. I would say I think we'll be there before we get to 5 years, but we'll leave it at that.
Thank you. My next question is on RTI. I don't know who did, Ms. Dacier. Okay. Everybody. So again, I love that we are looking at response intervention. And it says train schools and RTI is the action step, and that we have had 6 junior highs attend the RTI conference. So RTI is a model that's been around for a very long time. And I guess I want to make sure, as Mr. Webb spoke about assets and asset-based approach, that by us having it here doesn't mean that we have not been using the RTI model for many, many years to support our students with our multi-tiered system of supports. But it could appear that way. So I guess I want to know, how are we sharing what we have been doing all along in that area and then building on that?
No, you can go. Please.
Only because I funded that program and work with intervention for the last 5 years. We have almost done a tier 1, tier 3 model. So the RTI is filling that gap with tier 2, which means intervention during the school day. Tier 1, we have had teachers working with students all the time. We've always said, step 1, you let us know, how are you helping your students? When are you available? What are you doing in the classroom? How are you differentiating this instruction? How are you doing small groups? How are you doing follow-up? That's tier 1, during an actual class. Tier 3 is outside of the school day. So we've always had intervention after school. And here are these opportunities. You could come in before school. Tier 2 is, can you build it into the school day for all students? So that's like an advisory period. We've had little pockets of that here and there, but the junior highs came back, and immediately now they're having collaborative conversations with their leadership team to say, how do we change our bell schedule? We need to build something in. We need a 30-minute block or a 45-minute block where we can really grab kids during the day so they don't have to stay after school when they need a little more intensive help.
Good. And Mr. Hines, Hensey.
That's okay.
Thank you for the summer school schedule and the Summer Institute that we have. Uh, and Ms. Dasher mentioned this too, about the orientations that we have for 6th graders going into 7th grade and for 8th graders going into 9th grade. I guess one of the things that I would love to see on that summer school schedule and institute is more like a week of preparing you from 6th grade to 7th grade and from 8th grade to 9th grade. Just, you know, orientation is amazing and it's a lot. And a week camp of sorts. 7th grade boot camp. Something like that. I would love to see, not selfishly because I have a soon-to-be 7th grader, but I would love to see something like that, a boot camp for them of sorts.
So I can speak to kind of some of the things that were on that list that what we do have. The Math Academy is one where based off of the incoming 7th graders, their 6th grade math placement score, we can either put them in identify them as if they're needing some support as they go into 7th grade. So that's going to be part of the traditional summer school program, is the Math Academy. But also there's if they're kind of on that borderline where they can move on to the Accelerated 7 math program, that would give them a little extra opportunity to practice and then retake that math placement test. So that's one of the things. And I think that's another part of the Summer Impact Program. Now that's for 7th graders, so they've already come here, but these are students that we've identified that might be in that kind of need and need some extra support in literacy and math, as well as in that program, this is funded through the special programs, but they will have opportunities for enrichment, looking at career opportunities as they go forward. Just a kind of whole smorgasbord of opportunities that isn't just curricular, like literacy and math focused, but hopefully it will kind of pick up some of those students that we might not have identified coming into 7th grade, but get them on the successful path going forward.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you. I'd love to talk to you more about it, but thank you for that. I appreciate it. And then my last question is on Mr. Carino about the data visualization. I was listening to some of the parent comments earlier about information that would be helpful, statistics that would be helpful. And I know that we have different tiers of allowances of who can have access to specific data within all of the visualization opportunities. And I wanted to know what levels of access parents would have to see some types of data from our software.
We haven't really investigated that too deeply because we wanted to start with administrators and then go down to teachers. I know that there are a few dashboards that will allow parents to see their students' data visually, but not necessarily like a school-wide or district-wide. Although we do have, the state holds all of our data that we report through CalPADS on DataQuest. And so there's a lot of that information mentioned earlier that might be available already from the state level for our district.
You know, I want to make a suggestion on that that might be really helpful. I know that Ms. Rivera brought up a really good point. Some of the data that you are looking for is available on DataQuest, which is not too difficult to learn how to use, but perhaps we could put together a instruction sheet that might help parents access, because there's a lot of great information that's there, and we are required to publish on a regular basis. And once parents know how to access it, I mean, they can go straight through that website. So let's talk about maybe putting something together that would help parents. So.
Sounds good.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, terrific presentation from all of you. Thank you very much for your time and efforts, everybody. And this is very important, our strategic plan, to have these updates and cover focus area number 1. So thank you again for all your hard work, and we look forward to more updates and more discussions later on down the road. So we'll move on now with our next information item, English Language Development Program Update. Dr. Vieira.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, again, I'll just reintroduce Arian Wilson, who's our ELD program specialist, and she's going to provide an update on the district's English Learner program.
Good evening. I would like to now share with you some information about our English Learner program and how it works to support multiple areas of the strategic plan. So when students first enroll in a California public school, the parent or guardian completes a home language survey. Data collected on this survey informs the school that the incoming student may or may not be an English-speaking student. Besides English, there are roughly 49 identified languages spoken by our students in the district. This shows right here on this chart that we have over 4,000 students in our district who speak Spanish. Beyond the 49 identified languages, there are an additional 103 students who are grouped into a category of other non-English languages. And that group could have upwards of 80 individual languages spoken by our students. Not all of the bilingual students listed on this list are identified as English learners, so this chart does not indicate that we have over 6,000 English learners in the district. Our district information is here for the identified English learners. We have 1,206 English learners in the district. You will see sites such as Hart High School and Placerita have the highest numbers of English learners, yet even sites such as Learning Post Academy and Rancho Pico have significant numbers of English learners. As a whole, our district continues to see significant increases in newcomer English learners, which are students who have been enrolled in public school less than 2 years. Newcomer enrollment numbers continue to drive our English learner population growth year after year. Sites like Golden Valley and Hart have some of the highest number of newcomers, which has resulted in their programs needing additional specialized courses, teachers, and support staff. Two goals of our of our district program are to ensure students acquire proficiency in English as quickly and as effectively as possible, and that our bilingual students have the necessary skills to either continue their education or choose a career after they graduate. Remember, every student opportunity ready. California Education Code defines the programs we can offer our English learners. Our district provides an integrated and designated ELD program to our students, and our program has 2 branches. On the left-hand side, you will see the general program offers integrated ELD in all of our courses, meaning students receive language development in any course they choose to take. In addition, students have designated ELD, we call our class Achieve, which provides more targeted language development with the focus on ELD standards, including reading, writing, listening, and speaking. On the right-hand side of the screen, you'll see our newcomer program is similar to the general program with a few targeted changes. Identified newcomers may need newcomer English for foundational English development. Identified newcomers may need one of our newly launched newcomer math courses, such as Newcomer Math Foundations or Newcomer Algebra Foundations, in order to meet the required algebra requirement for high school graduation. These are photos of our Hart students engaged in their Newcomer Math Foundations course. Students are playing a math game using playing cards to learn about integers. Students also have sentence frames to help them use English when speaking about math. Here, Golden Valley Newcomer Math students are engaged in a collaborative game of Simon Says with integers. Our newcomer English classes at Placerita and Hart demonstrate the collaborative side of learning in our program. Students learn to work together to support their individual learning. The new California 2022 dashboard data shows that 54% of our English learner students are making progress towards English language proficiency on the yearly LPAC. The chart on the right shows the results expanded to explain this growth a bit more, to show that of those students, 49% of them increased their LPAC score compared to last year, and 6% of them retained their level 4 score from the prior year. When students score an LPAC level 4, they are ready to move forward to reclassification. Reclassification is the process whereby a student is reclassified from English learner status to fluent English proficient. Campus closures in the 2020-21 school year significantly impacted our EL reclassification due to the fact that students may not have taken the LPAC before we went online. However, 190 students met criteria for reclassification and moved out of our program. The following year, with many more students on campus to take the LPAC, our reclassification numbers jumped up to 366 students. This year, I am confident that our students will continue to meet the criteria to reclassify because as of January 23rd, we have currently reclassified 188 students. Our teachers and administrators are currently working to encourage students to meet the final criteria and reclassify before the 2023 LPAC is given at school sites. In closing, the goals of our English Learner Program are to ensure our students acquire language quickly and efficiently and leave us ready to enter higher education or choose a career that suits them. I appreciate the hard work and dedication of our 60 Achieve teachers and our English Learner administrators across the district who help our students find academic and personal success on a daily basis. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions from the board or comments?
I do.
Go ahead, Mr. Webb.
Ms. Wilson, thank you very much for a very comprehensive, very succinct presentation on a lot of very dense information. I do have a question on reclassification. It is still required that students are monitored for about 3 years, correct?
4 years, yes.
4 years. Okay, thank you for the correction. What does that look like? I'm just curious because I think it's important for the board and our community to understand it's not just you're reclassified and boom, good luck, but
Correct.
that there still is systems of support. So do you mind speaking to that?
Sure. So yes, our English learners who are reclassified are monitored for 4 years. So we internally flag the student with a little RFEP flag, which indicates that they are a reclassified student. That tells our staff and our administration, our counselors, anyone else that that student is reclassified proficient. So they have, exited the program in the last 4 years. So we monitor them. Our teachers, our English, science, and history teachers receive monitoring forms on those students twice a year. And though we have used a platform called Elevation to do that, the forms are sent out. The teachers receive a form for every student they have in their class that is on the 4-year monitoring. And it's not very invasive. The question is just ask, is the student struggling with any type of language, reading, writing, listening, or speaking? Are they struggling in your class? And ask what interventions has the teacher provided thus far? And then ask for recommendation if the student needs more focused intervention from our English learner team or teachers at the school site. So at that point, we usually get a small group of students who might need some monitoring, some additional intervention. They may pull them in for an after school or a lunchtime. At the very higher end of that would be pulling them back into our Achieve program, a class period a day, just so that they have the extra support to get themselves in a better place with their grades and whatever. Additionally, our summer school program offers a lot of support for our students too who need maybe some additional time to make up credits or things like that. We don't usually see many of our reclassified students struggling, but it does happen. On the dashboard with CASP this year, looking at our reclassified students, they're doing very well, compared to their English-only peers or their English learners counterparts.
And then they're still monitored progress through the LPAC, correct?
No, they no longer take the LPAC once they're reclassified.
And LPAC stands for?
You're going to put me on the spot. Thank you very much. English Language Proficiency Assessment, I think, of California.
Okay.
There's many things as far.
No, I'm just saying it because we always use a lot of acronyms, and I
Yes.
just want to make sure that.
Yeah, I have LPAC, I have ELAC, I have
RFEP.
LCAP.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
No, thank you. I appreciate it. And again, thank you for a very, very good presentation.
May I ask a question?
Yes, Mrs. Storley.
Okay, when did this monitoring by history teachers begin?
Well, you'll notice that probably kind of small up there, but the reclassification criteria that we adopted about 3 years ago shifted to focus on language courses versus courses like math or physical education as part of the reclassification criteria. So we switched to looking at the grade in their English class and then either a history class grade or a science grade. So that's why we kind of go to our teachers here, those same categories, to ask to monitor those students in their classes. Most of them require heavy lifting with the language in reading and writing. And so we figured asking them for their input would be the best area to find those students who need the support.
I just know that I was never asked to fill out a form from a student, but it was 8 years ago now. So
Yeah.
I think that's a great, I think it's a great idea. I think that children, first, the younger you get a child, the easier it is for them to gain a second and third and fourth language. I think the high school kids or junior high kids, I think that it's a little harder for them. And I know that we do, even back in my day, we gave them a lot of support. And this looks like it's even more directed. And I think we can catch some that might have fallen through the cracks before. So this is a good thing.
Yes, very much so, with the addition of designated ELD, where the teachers are seeing them every day or every other, depending on the schedule. It allows them to connect with a teacher in a way that's a little different. They're not necessarily, doing a lot of rigorous academic lifting, but it gives them almost a homeroom space, a place to check in and focus the awareness on, let's get you reclassified so that, you can move out, and into an elective course or a pathway program from this point.
One quick question. What would be the credential for the Achieve teacher?
Very good question. It's actually an elective. So most of our staff who have a clear credential or professional clerk, whichever they have, or a ELA 1 credential, qualifies them to teach the course.
And that's in junior high and high school every day, or if they're on block schedule, it's different, but they go to that class, and it's a normal class period.
Yes.
Because one of the speakers before were talking about, we need a little time with kids every day. It would be nice to go back to a homeroom time just for the kids to check in, and someone monitors them, like through junior high and through high school. I think that was a good thing. When I was in junior high, we had the homeroom, and it gave us a little home to be in.
Yeah.
But it also, if the teacher was good, and hopefully they all are, they could spot things over time that maybe a semester teacher couldn't. So that's a good idea.
One of my teachers, I'll just share this little anecdote. I was speaking to her today. She's Placerita, newcomer teacher and coordinator. She shared that her Achieve class is called the family room. Because that's what it's become with all of the newcomers and all of her ELs. They hang out there. So she said, when we are in family room, we talk about, how they're doing and how they're getting through school. So I think that reflects exactly what you're saying.
Thank you.
I'd like to move on unless we have a burning question, because we have 10 action items. It's 9:45, but if you can make it quick, please.
Burning question.
Burning question. Thank you so very much. This was a great report, and I know we've spoken about our ELs and some of their needs. Two questions that I have. One is the data on the number of our ELs this year, 1206. Can you provide for me at a later time what that looks like over the last 5 years, so that we can see that trajectory and where it's going and,
Yes.
and how it's changed?
I'd be happy to do that.
Perfect, thank you. And then, there's a huge need and a lot of work that is happening. What would you say would be the biggest need that you have to better support our English learners?
More staff. It's always more staff. That seems to be that was definitely the area, especially with the newcomer program this year, was adding staff. It's not only certificated, but it's classified as well. We've added a lot of bilingual instructional assistants this year, and it's the desperate call. We need the help. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Great presentation. Thank you very much. I wish we had more time to talk
It's
about it.
okay, I understand. Thank
But,
you.
But great job, and this is very important information. If you can get back with Dr. Moore and her question, that'd be
Happy to.
wonderful. Thank you for
Thank you.
your time.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on with our last information item before our action items: revised and deleted board policies and administrative regulations. Dr. Vieira.
Yeah, thank you. The attached board policies and administrative regulations are presented tonight as a first reading. These are also sent to, for review to the board member committee for board policies and regulations. I can give just a very quick overview each. Board policy AR 0440, district technology, has proposed updates to the policy regarding the district technology plan. This policy and all the others that are presented tonight have not been updated in some time, but they all do comply with current requirements, the proposed revisions, and they also coordinate with CSBA proposed language. BPAR 6162.6, use of copyright materials, has revised language regarding copyright laws and regulations. BPAR 6163.4, student use of technology, includes updated information regarding student use. BPAR 6162.7, 6163.7, and AR 6163.5 are all recommended for deletion because they're included in some of our other board policies and regulations. Again, these are for first reading, and I can take any recommendations from the board tonight or afterwards.
Any questions right now, Joe?
Is there a reference to where they're called out in the new policy?
We can get that. John, you don't know offhand the ones that were deleted?
So when we do this in the future and we're wiping out a policy, can we?
The policy is attached and there's a line through the entire thing, so you can still read it through the strikeout.
But where is it in the new policy, I guess is my question.
Oh, I'd have to,
I'd have to
like
map.
he
just said that.
Yeah, I'd have to map that out for you, sorry.
Yeah, just let us know where it is
Sure.
so I can feel good about it.
We can
It's all about
cross-reference
me
that.
feeling good, yeah.
Right, sure.
Okay.
Any other questions? Dr. Moore?
I'm sorry.
It's okay. If it's a burning question, go for it.
It's on the use of copyrighted materials. There's a significant amount of information with that board policy and a significant amount of responsibility that teachers have related to use of copyrighted materials. And what I didn't see in the policy or the administrative regulations was reference to training or to who monitors or to what happens if something isn't used right like it's supposed to be. So I just, that was what I didn't see and wanted to know.
Yeah, there's a reference at the end to there will be training, but you're right. As far as specifics, we can provide some more information on that.
Okay. And then on the tech plan, what year are we in now?
We actually don't have a current tech plan. So many years ago, the county and the state removed the requirement for that. And so we kind of let the previous one expire. And then when we started talking about the strategic plan, I kind of was waiting for that to flush out before we then readdress the technology plan. So updating this policy is great because it gives us updated policy and guidelines for what that should be.
So when it passes, we'll start at year 1 then? Okay. And when did the last one expire?
I had black hair.
It's been a while. I'd have to go check. Maybe
Okay.
2014, 15?
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, John and Dr. Vieira. So we are now going to move on to our action items. We have 10 of them. The first one is resolution number 22/23-32, recognizing February as Black History Month. We have 2 speakers. We'll have the speakers first, and then we'll have Dr. Vieira introduce further on this resolution. Valerie Bradford. Following Valerie will be Santa Rivera.
Thank you. Thank you, President Jensen and Board, for acknowledging the importance of recognizing Black History Month. And so I just want to share a short read with you. An author once said, "Black history is the history of enslavement. African history is the history of our humanity. Our African history predates the horrific transatlantic voyage. African ingenuity and intelligence boldly authored and constructed whole civilizations. We painted our continent with curly dark hair and smooth chocolate skin, a perfect adaptation for the landscape on which we lived. We were a skilled people using medicine, technology, and astronomy to build and maintain not only cities, but empires. The diverse African culture grew those empires to hundreds of thousands of indigenous people with a multitude of languages. Everything that was needed was produced from the soil, and the people were known for luxurious gold, bronze, and terracotta trade items. The land was rich with gold, ivory, and spices. These were the first commodities to be traded. Our Black history started around the 15th century, when trade shifted from spices and minerals to the human commodity, Africans. By the end of the 19th century, 10 to 12 million Africans had been plucked from the continent of Africa. So began our Black history. Our Black history is this country's American history. Thank you.
Thank you. And Sandra Rivera.
Hello again. So for Black History Month, I would like to share a couple of quotes. One that I've shared before from Rosa Parks. Stand for something or you will fall for anything. Today's mighty oak is yesterday's nut that held its ground. Again, I am one of those nuts. Don't forget that. Martin Luther King also mentioned, the time is always right to do what is right. So even though sometimes we may not agree with what somebody is doing, but they feel it is right, if it's the right time to do it and you feel that it's the right time to do it and it's the right thing to do, I appreciate that quote. I think it's a good example, especially considering what we're going through right now. I would like to acknowledge and remember that many people had to go through a lot of uncomfortable situations and stand up for things and rights that were not given, and they still persevered, and we are here now. It is not a perfect now, but we must not forget what has happened in the past so that we don't continue to make the same mistakes. And I think that these two people are very good examples of someone to look up to that is willing to stand out and do what may be risky in order to fight for our freedoms. Some people were able to have more freedoms than others, and it's not right, and therefore anybody who feels that way should not feel that they cannot stand up for for their freedoms and for their rights. And I would like to include that when we remember Black History Month, because they also had to stand up and do a lot of things that you guys didn't like, that all of us parents here did. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Dr. Vieira.
Yeah, thank you. Well, as was already introduced by Dr. Moore and Mr. Messina and Danielle and Ms. Bradford, during the month of February, we celebrate the legacy of Black Americans and recognize the many contributions made by Black American leaders and community members. During February, the Hart District will remember Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., as well as celebrate Black history, diversity, and the Hart District's ongoing commitment towards supporting equity. It is my honor tonight to recommend that the board adopt resolution number 22/23-32, recognizing February as Black History Month.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Storley, second by Dr. Moore to approve resolution number 22/23-32, recognizing February as Black History Month. All in favor?
Aye.
Student board member? Aye. And the chair says aye. Thank you, everyone. Okay, we'll move on with our next action item. Mr. Peshek has this one on public disclosure of proposed compensation increase for the Hart District Teachers Association.
Thank you, President Jensen. Members of the board, before you this evening is the public disclosure of financial impact of a proposed compensation increase for the Hart District Teachers Association, representing certificated employees here in the Hart District. Prior to entering into any agreement with an employee group, California Code does require us to publicly disclose the costs associated with that agreement and the effects over a 3-year span. The cost over that 3-year span for the proposed compensation settlement with HDTA and certificated staff is $11,592,283, as reflected in the forms here presented. They have been submitted to the Los Angeles County Office of Education for review, as is required by Ed Code and county standards. At this time, we recommend you accept the public disclosure document AB 1200.
Move to accept the public disclosure of the financial impact of a proposed compensation increase for HDTA represented employees as outlined in Form AB 1200.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Webb, second by Mrs. Storley to accept the public disclosure of the financial impact of a proposed compensation increase for HDTA represented employees. All in favor?
Aye.
Student board member? Aye. And the chair says aye. Thank you, Mr. Peshek. We'll move on to item C, which is the ratification of the collective bargaining agreement between the district and HDTA, and Dr. Nilsson has this one.
Thank you and good evening. The district and the Hart Teachers Association have agreed upon terms for contract negotiations for the 2022-23 academic year, which includes a 10% increase to unit members' salary schedules effective January 1st, 2023. Certificated unit members employed on the date of board approval will receive a 4% one-time off-schedule payment for the 22-23 school year. Staff is recommending the board approve contract revisions as indicated in the attachment.
Move to approve the tentative agreement between the district and HDTA for the 2022-23 academic year.
Second.
Motion by Dr. Moore, second by Mr. Webb to approve the tentative agreement between the district and HDTA for the 2022-23 academic year. All in favor?
Aye.
Student board member? Aye. And the chair says aye. Thank you, Dr. Nilsson. We're going to shift back to Mr. Peshek for item D, public disclosure of proposed compensation increase for unrepresented employees.
Thank you, President Jensen. Similar to the previous item, we have a public disclosure for proposed compensation for unrepresented employees. These are district employees who are not members of one of the two bargaining units, including management and classified personnel. I won't go through the full explanation again. All the same requirements are required. The financial impact is $1,578,231 for this group. And we would recommend that the board accept the public disclosure, the AB 1200, this evening.
I don't know. Maybe not.
I move to accept the public disclosure of the financial impact of a proposed compensation increase for unrepresented employees as reflected on Form AB 1200.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Webb, second by Mrs. Storley to accept the public disclosure of the financial impact of a proposed compensation increase for unrepresented employees. All in favor?
Aye.
Student board member? Aye. And the chair says aye.
Hey, Mr. Chair, for clarification, these would be teachers that are not in the union, correct? In simple English.
They're
Not necessarily
typically,
These are our confidential and management employees.
Oh, okay, all right.
Management.
okay, now we'll shift back over to Dr. Nilsson for item E, compensation adjustments of unrepresented employees.
Hello again. This item will increase the salary schedule 10% for each unrepresented employee effective January 1st, 2023. This will apply to all confidential and management employees. Unrepresented employees employed on the date of board approval will receive a 4% one-time off-schedule payment for the 22-23 school year. Staff is recommending the approval of these adjustments.
Move to approve compensation adjustments for unrepresented employees.
Second.
Motion by Dr. Moore, second by Mrs. Storley to approve compensation adjustments for unrepresented employees. All in favor?
Aye.
Student board member? Aye. And the chair says aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nilsson and Mr. Peshek. We'll move on to resolution number 22/23-25. This is item F. And Mr. Peshek again.
Thank you, President Jensen. Members of the board, the next 4 items are linked in nature. And they, a landowner reached out to the district staff late last year regarding the upcoming development of the remainder of the Tesoro DeVale community. The development, Tesoro Highlands, is planned to be developed by Lehner Homes and Toll Brothers as a 455 single-family detached units and 365 age-restricted units. In 1997, the prior property owner had entered into a mitigation agreement with the district that established mitigation payments for the development above statutory school fees and with the potential for creation of a community facilities district to fund those mitigation payments. After a few months of negotiation with the new landowner, district staff and legal have come to an agreement on the terms and parameters of an amended mitigation agreement that has been updated to meet current needs, and a new community facilities district. Items F through I, as I mentioned on the agenda, represent the preliminary steps in this process. There will be additional actions needed to complete the CFD formation process, and we're targeting that to come back on the March 15th board meeting. We have Jesse Landry, Vice President of Public Finance from California Financial Services, here with us this evening. And if the board has any questions in regarding the development or the proposed community facility district, Jesse can guide us through those. And Jesse, it's good to see you in. It's been a couple of years since we've seen you live.
Great to see everyone.
Thanks for being here.
I have a question or two. Okay. What was the agreement before the new landowners took over?
So the agreement before the new landowners took over was from 1997. That agreement actually covered all the existing Tesoro Del Valle, if you're familiar with that development. It covered all of that area in this remainder area. So the district has two CFDs over the existing development, and those are 2002-1 and 2004-1. So at the time when those developed, they created new agreements and formed these new CFDs over those developments. So we're really following a similar suit here. That old agreement had a similar mitigation amount to what we entered into with this amended. One of the things that was unique, though, was that if you're familiar with the district's fair share mitigation amount, it's been one that's been utilized. We talk about it over and over in these mitigation agreements. This was the onset of that fair share. So the structure is there where it's similar to fair share, but it was prior to when fair share was created. That was created in 1998. This agreement was in 1997. So it's a little bit different. So in order for us to come up with the dollar amounts, we actually had to take that old 97 agreement and try to update do every year of annual updates to get it up to the correct amount, which actually is higher than the fair share amount today. So with this agreement, we'll actually be entering into something where the district will receive funding for facilities in excess of the fair share amounts that it has in some of the other areas in the district.
So it looked to me like now it's 14,000 something per unit. Can you just ballpark what it was before? Is it higher or lower?
So the current fair share is around $12,000 to $13,000 per unit. The old agreement's 14,680. That's kind of how I escalated that amount up and then presented that to the developers what they would need to pay.
Okay, and did they agree?
They did agree. Yeah, and that's what we're approving today is this locks us in at 14,680. But one of the other important pieces is that it will not escalate based on fair share. The way this will escalate is going to be the greater of 2% every year or the construction cost index increase that the state allocation board uses. There's a couple reasons why I like this a little bit better. I think it's going to allow us to get more funding as that project develops. And I'll tell you right off the bat, I happen to be looking at what that index increased this year. It went up 9.3%. So that's going to be a sizable increase that is already going to be implemented on July 1st under this agreement.
And that's the developer pays that?
Exactly, yes.
Thank you. I live in Tesoro. I didn't want my taxes to go up.
Is asking, Jesse, it's good to see you. It's going to escalate for the 800 or 20 so units that they build out. And is that, I read, not to exceed 15 million?
That's the not to exceed amount for the bond if a CFD bond is issued. And let me just clarify that as well. So when we talk about bonds on the CFD side, these are not a debt of the school district. It's not a bond that the school district issues. When we form a CFD, we form a separate legislative entity that they're responsible for a bond issuance, and they only have a limited source of dollars that they can utilize to repay those, which is the taxes collected within the CFD boundaries. So it's not an obligation of the district. And then the other component is, if we were to ever issue bonds, I'd be, or someone else would be back up here in front of you and talking about that bond issuance, and the board would need to approve it at that time. What this sets with a CFD is it sets a parameter that's going to exist for the next 30, 40 years, where this CFD can only access that total amount of bonds. Now, the funding today expected from the CFD is closer to 6 or 7 million. But because we have index increases in there, I always want to make sure that our limitation is based on what interest rates are, what the taxes are that we can collect, and never this total dollar amount. I would hate to see a situation where we had very large increases on the index and very large increases on our mitigation amount, but then the bond wasn't set in a way where we'd be able to fund that. So that's why we have that additional capacity there.
Thank you.
Thank
you
you.
for that.
Any other questions? Okay. Ralph, anything else? Okay.
No, thank
so-
you, Mr. Jensen.
Thank you, Jesse. I was going to inquire about some of the same things, so you answered my questions as well, and appreciate your commentary on things. All right,
you.
this is an action item.
I'd like to move resolution number 2223-25.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Storley, second by Dr. Moore to approve resolution number 22/23-25. All in favor?
Aye.
Student board member? Aye. And the chair says aye. All right. Thank you. We'll move on to 22/23-26. Mr. Peshek?
And again, all four of these items are
So
linked
move-
together this evening, so we
I'd
would
like to
ask the board
move-
to approve all four.
I'd like to move resolution number 22/23-26. Intention to establish Community Facilities District number 2023-1.
Second.
Motion by Dr. Moore, second by Mr. Webb to approve resolution number 22/23-26. Intention to establish Community Facilities District number 2023-1. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Student board
Aye.
member? Aye. And the chair says aye. Okay, and we'll move on now to resolution 22/23-27. Mr. Peshek, anything there, or just, it's all covered with the?
No additional information.
Okay.
Move to approve resolution number 22/23-27. Intention to incur bonded indebtedness in an aggregate principal amount.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Webb, second by Mrs. Storley to approve resolution number 22/23-27, intention to incur bonded indebtedness as stated in the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Student board member? And the chair says aye. And then we have resolution number 22/23-28, approving and ordering the recording of the boundary map related to the same community facilities district. Anything there, Mr. Peshek? It's, okay, so we'll
No
take a
additional
motion and a
information.
second.
Oh, you want me to spend money? Okay, yeah, so moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Messina, second by Mrs. Storley to approve resolution number 22/23-28. All in favor?
Aye.
Student board member? And the chair says aye. Thank you. We have one action item left. It's J, agreement for solar warranty inspection and administrative services. Mr. Peshek.
Thank you, President Jensen, members of the board. This item before you this evening is a contract with Technical Business Solutions to provide inspection of all of our solar array inverters as well as the underlying equipment. As the board will remember, in February 16th, 2011, one of the prior boards entered into a public purchase agreement with a company named Somas to install solar
It was
around the
Bob's
district.
fault.
It was
Yeah,
Bob's
yeah.
fault. And subsequently, we entered into another agreement about approximately 5 years ago to put some supplemental in with ADS. In October 2nd, 2019, the board approved a buyout of the public or the power purchase agreement from Somas, which meant that we paid them $20 million to buy the system out. And the reason that the board approved that at that time was that For the remaining 13 years of the original 20-year contract, it would have cost us $35 million to pay SOMAS for the remaining 17 years of that contract. So the district realized a $15 million savings, even after all of our loan payments that we took out to buy the system over that 13-year period. So good investment for the district to take advantage of that buyout at the 7-year mark. We discussed at that time, 3 years ago, that we would need to do ongoing upkeep and maintenance and preventive maintenance on an annual basis. Then we dropped into COVID and things slowed down a little bit. Over the past year, we also talked about the need possibly of bringing on an energy manager, either through an outside consulting agreement or an internal candidate. So during that time period, we're fortunate that we have Director of Maintenance and Operation, Carl Manley, has some experience in this area and knows some local consultants. And so he's been kind of shepherding us through this analysis. And we determined through the initial review of the solar arrays last year, so we've had them on board for a little while without a PM program, that there had been some damage done to the solar arrays around the district. Some wiring had been messed with. The inverters have now come to kind of the end of their shelf life, and some of the panels as well. And we're in a warranty window still for replacing all of those. And what these folks are going to do is they're going to go through every single piece of equipment we have out there and actually hook them up and do data monitoring, record all that data, and then they will help us facilitate submissions of warranty claims so that the district can get that equipment paid for and replaced prior to the end of the warranty. We need that professional outside technical experience to make that happen. In addition to the average of $1 million a year in loan payments by switching, but bringing it in-house, we have not incurred the $100,000 to $150,000 in PM costs that we had anticipated. So this would be a net. We're basically using that money to pay for this service now. That once they're done with their analysis and get all those things submitted, they'll help us to get all the repairs done as well. So
I have a question. What's the difference between what we are paying now for energy and what we would be paying if we didn't have solar?
So we'd have to do a very specific analysis, Mr. Rowley. What I can share with you anecdotally, as you're experiencing at home right now, both with gas and with electricity, the bills are crazy. And last week, as a matter of fact, I had a discussion with our power purchasing JPA, SPUR, and their advisors to guide us on what our next contract with SCE would look like moving forward. I will tell you that part of that discussion was that the rates went up by almost $30 per unit for us, which was significant. And so having these, we've got a baseline power supply that we know the cost forever, and the cost is those loan payments. And so we're insulated from these price spikes that the general public are looking at.
Do we pay anything to Southern California Edison?
We do. The solar system is not intended to run the whole school. It's an offset, and it reduces our expenditures. And obviously during peak times of the year, in the summer and the fall, and in the spring again, we're having to buy more power from SCE to really support the HVAC systems of the district. Yeah.
During the time that school's out during the summer, do we get credit for unused?
We do.
Okay.
We do sell that back to SCE. It is the highest rate we can negotiate, but it's nothing close to what it should be.
I agree. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I got a bunch. That was one of them, was the summertime, when we're not around, we are selling that. I mean, we realize that we knew from day one the electricity would never run the schools. My understanding was always that we were selling that back to the electric company, which would reduce our rates for what we were using, correct?
Yeah, during the summer, absolutely.
Okay, do we have any kind of numbers? Remember Steve Sturgeon used to ask for these all the time. Everybody cringed. Do we have any kind of numbers what we're really saving? I mean, what it would cost us for that electricity that we're using as opposed to what, we're getting back for what we're selling back to the electric company? And
Yeah, we can certainly put together a six-month
and then you've got
run.
almost $400,000 in what they're going to do is they're going to go out and look at everything and going to tell you what needs, we're going to tell the warranty company what needs to be replaced. And we hope that they fall in line and replace those things, correct?
So we've been in ongoing negotiations with the manufacturers of the panels and the inverters, and they are expecting these warranty claims from us. So they are working cooperatively with us. We also have made sure that legal is reviewing the warranty to make sure that they don't try and squirm out of anything.
And I have read that some of these panels in these big projects are not backwards compatible. So when they come in to replace them or upgrade them, they don't work with the old panels. So can we check and make sure that,
Part of the warranty will be, they will have to provide panels and inverters that are compatible with our systems.
yeah, I would like to see something. I don't need to see it by Friday, but in the
That'll
next
take
few
me a long-
weeks. Yeah, I'd like to see something that says, this is what we, what we would be spending without the panels. This is what we're spending with the panels. This is what we're truly saving. And, while we're at it, can we look at some kind of storage from these or we had many days where we had no power, and is there any way to store any of that power?
So we do have two sites where we have experimented with installing batteries. Canyon is one of them. And so we have a modest capacity. Batteries sufficient to run a school would be a farm.
Okay.
But we can get you some data on what that would look like and, what that would look like based on our daily consumption rates. Yeah.
Just running the basics, I mean, just lights and whatever, but I'm just curious more than anything.
You
Anyway,
want that, you said you didn't have to have it by Friday, but
No,
did you
I'd
want
like
it by
it Thursday,
Saturday?
maybe.
You want it
Yeah.
by Saturday or?
Thursday. I move we approve.
Motion by Mr. Messina, second by Mrs. Storley to approve the agreement with TBS for solar array and inverter warranty inspection and submission service. All in favor?
Aye.
Student board member? And the chair says aye. Okay, consent calendar, unless a board member has a question concerning a particular item and asks that it be withdrawn from the consent calendar, the governing board approves all the items at one time. I gotta say, this is one of the shortest consent calendars I've ever seen since I've been on the board, which is great. Let's keep it that way.
So
But,
moved.
okay, motion by Mr. Messina, second by Mrs. Storley to approve the consent calendar. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Student board member?
Aye.
And the chair says aye. Okay, so now we're down to items for future consideration by the board. Anybody have any items or things to bring up?
No, not right now, next time.
Okay. Well, if there's nothing else, then it's 10:20. We'll entertain a motion and a second to adjourn.